West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't understand why
agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. Wait, it's not the Jeff and Bill Show. It's the Jeff and Conservative Momma Show. She joins me live in studio because Bill went out late last night. He can still do it, Adam. He can still keep the energy up. He went to a Papa Roach concert, and you know he loves music, so he's staying out a little bit late and decided to take the morning off. We all knew about that ahead of time because we knew he was going to have some fun. So joining me live in studio is Conservative Momma Rachel. Good morning.
Hello. Hey, good morning. It's good to be here. I don't think I'll wake up right around the 8 o'clock hour. Jeez.
That's how most of us are.
Woo.
It is bright and early. Conservative Momma, huge following on X, well over 100,000 on X. How much on Facebook, YouTube?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm chugging along. It's okay.
She's quite popular and does a great job kind of mocking the left. So she's joining us live in studio as our co-host today, and we've got an absolutely fire show lined up for you. Chris Murray, First and 14th Law, is going to join us. George Brauchler, District Attorney for Judicial District 23, is going to be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. We're going to talk about the Highlands Ranch shooting that took place, considered and called justified by the district attorney. We'll talk about that. Also, Jenna Griswold is jumping in for Attorney General.
Of course.
Yeah, right. I mean, the state.
That's who they're going to throw up. That's who they throw up. So
I feel like Colorado looks around for the dumbest person. It's like, oh, you can lead us. That's where we are right now. 8 o'clock hour, Hadley Heath Manning's going to be joining us as she is going to be talking about a debate they're going to be having at the University of Colorado about women and men in sport, men and women's sports. I'm going to ask her about by the way, did you see the videos of the Frisbee golf player?
I watched some of that. Yes.
Yeah.
And
so, first of all,
the difference is so substantial. It's ridiculous.
And
it's like two different sports.
And the announcer that's like, wow,
he's really got to spit on that one.
So
or
much
something.
more power. Yeah, because it's a
Clearly,
dude.
right.
Hadley Heath Manning with Steamboat Institute join us in the 8 o'clock hour. And then Roger Hamilton with the Eagle Lake Camps will be joining us in the 9 o'clock hour. So, lots to talk about today. Breaking news coming down from the U.S. Supreme Court. We're going to talk with Chris Murray in a second. But now is time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. It's Tuesday,
I'll switch
40 and mostly cloudy in Denver. Expecting a high of 71 today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Colorado's top election official is looking for a new position in state government. Secretary of State Jenna Griswold says she's planning to run for AG next year.
At this moment in time, we really need a strong, proven leader as Attorney General. We are seeing our rights and freedoms being attacked by the Trump administration. And I have the experience standing up to Trump and MAGA extremists.
Oh, yes, we're quite aware. You thought it was heroic to try to keep the man who the majority of us in this country believed will fight for our liberty, freedom, sovereignty, and safety in this beautiful country and put America first, not the communist, globalist nut jobs. You did that. Maybe we need to prevent you from being on the ballot. How about that? But no, we wouldn't do that, Grizzy, because we believe in freedom, and you don't. The Supreme Court sides with DJT on the Alien Enemies Act, the SWAT, and they swat the commie judge Boasberg. Get that big stuff out of here. Pam Bondi said last night the decision is landmark. It's a landmark victory for the rule of law. An activist judge in D.C. does not have the jurisdiction to seize control of President Trump's authority to conduct foreign policy and keep the American people safe. The Department of Justice will continue fighting in court to make America safe again. American Enterprise Institute senior fellow Mark Thiessen.
Big victory for Trump in the new lawfare. So the old lawfare was try to destroy Donald Trump. 91 indictments, 2 impeachments, civil suits to destroy him, and all the rest of it. That all failed. He won the election and came back stronger than ever. And so the new lawfare is to try and stop him from implementing his agenda through a miasma of court cases. And this was a perfect example of it, and the Supreme Court is now allowing him to use this law. So this is a first victory in the fight against the new lawfare.
Congratulations, DJT. That is awesome. 47 posting on True Social that his long-awaited physical examination will be Friday at Walter Reed. He says he's never felt better, but nevertheless, things must be done. 47 says he'll raise tariffs on China by another 50% if they don't get rid of their retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. Today is the deadline for China to undo its 34% duties.
We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do this, what I'm doing. And I'll tell you what, it's an honor to do it because we have been just destroyed, what they've done to our system. You know, we have $36 trillion of debt for a reason. And the reason is that people allowed it to get that way. So we'll be talking to China. We'll be talking to a lot of different countries. And I think, you know, if we can make a really fair deal and a good deal for the United States, not a good deal for others. This is America first. It's now America first.
The world champion Dodgers were at the White House on Monday along with Shohei Ohtani. That was a great scene. And national championship game last night in men's college basketball.
Cryer, 6 seconds, 5 seconds, sharp. He walked, he can't touch it. He can't. 1 second, and it's over. Florida is back on top of the college basketball world championship.
Houston was one last look last night. Shooter gets caught in the air, didn't know what to do, and man, that's a tough way to lose it. Great closeout defense by Florida, and Jeff, the Gators came back from a 12-point deficit. Yeah,
12
Houston,
points. All right, so
63.
Tell me what happened there.
Well,
he pulls up and just the pressure,
4-3.
the guy in his face, just at that moment, that split second, just made the wrong decision. Do you think he should have shot it?
I don't know if he made the wrong decision. I mean, he could have made that shot. It's a 3-point shot, but he's up in the air, and what that was just great closeout defense.
Yes.
Now, when your son plays basketball, that is just beautiful. He's the defender. I don't even know who it was, what his name was, but his arm is straight up as high as he can go. He's not going to foul him, but he's going to stretch his arm and his body as high as he can and to make sure that he doesn't foul the shooter. And he just closed out, stretched out, and shooter goes up, and he was shocked that he got there so quickly. So he's caught up in the air. You know, what do? He could try to shoot the ball, get it blocked. He hesitated. He could have tried to pass it to his teammate.
Right.
That would have been almost impossible. And his teammates, basically, their backs were to him, so they had no idea what happened. When the ball bounces on the floor, he can't pick it up because it'd be double dribble, or they call traveling, or double dribble.
Yeah.
And so he's stuck in the air, and that was it. That is defense, man. Just great defense by Florida to win that game.
The run down before that, where Houston was trying to bring it in, and the defense, Florida knocks the ball loose, hits the guy's knee from Houston, and then bounces out of bounds. That's a textbook look at the very end of a game on how to play defense. No fouls.
Right.
Incredible pressure.
Hands on the ball.
Right.
Man.
That's exactly right.
I mean, and when you're playing defense and you're taught to have your hands shoulder level a lot of times, and you're spread out in your wingspan. But a great defender, he's looking at the ball, he's anticipating. He's not slapping at the ball. He's just playing great defense. He got his hand on the ball, and just excellent defense last night. Loved it. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Did the kids enjoy it?
Oh yeah. Absolutely, but we're in like prime busy season right now.
Right,
so
we
had band performance, wind ensemble. That was the word I was looking for.
Oh wow!
My son's wind ensemble performance
that's
yesterday
awesome.
on top of flag football games, and we're running all around. So we're watching on our phones. I mean, what a time to be alive, where you can watch the game on the phones.
Right.
You used to have to record it
point.
and then hope nobody told you about it.
Absolutely.
And then get home to watch it.
And it's always weird because the national championship game is on Monday. So the East Coast, they're always complaining. They complain every year. It's the annual complaint, and you see it on social media. 9 o'clock start, tips off at 9 o'clock on the East Coast.
I don't
but
blame
6 on the. No, I know that's tough. But on the West Coast, it's at 6 o'clock. So a lot of people are in traffic and doing what you're doing, And I remember as a kid, just trying to race home from track meets or whatever we had, like what you were talking about. Something happened at the school. Eventually they learned don't schedule anything on that Monday, or early in April, because it's the national championship game. So, well, good. I'm glad you were able to watch it somehow, somewhere, and enjoy one of the great events in sports. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. The Rockies back at it tonight at Coors, 6:40 first pitch against the Brew Crew, and the Golden Knights at the Avalanche this evening in Lodo. 41 in Aurora, 37 in Golden, 40 in Denver. Jeff and the Conservative Momma continue. Billy's off. You went to a big concert last night, but I have to play a little bit of this before we move on.
Ball is tipped, and there you are.
Yes. One shining moment was great last night. Enjoyed that every year. So the national championship is over and Florida wins it. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Springtime in the Rockies. Beautiful weather over the next 3 days, maybe the next 4. Level clouds, and it might get a little bit breezy. We'll be low 70s today, near 70 tomorrow, deep into the 70s as we get into late Thursday and especially by Friday and Saturday. Breezy periods, likely dry until maybe a chance Sunday and Monday for showers. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
In a second, we're going to get to Chris Murray with First and 14th Law and these Supreme Court decisions that came out yesterday, late last night. But first, I want to talk to you about my friends over at Alarm Detection Systems. Reliability isn't optional. When business security is on the line, it's essential. Businesses trust alarm detection systems for the highest level of service and expertise. Think about the time you could be saving using just one source for cameras, keycard access, fire, and intrusion systems. Alarm Detection Systems offers expert alarm installations and testing by highly trained technicians, 24/7 professional monitoring, same-day or next-day service upon request because downtime isn't an option, dedicated teams for cameras, access control, and fire alarms, over 300 security professionals working just for you. Choosing ADS means your business stays protected and will be ready to open tomorrow. They combine human monitoring with the latest AI camera technology to prevent crime in real time. So trusted by small and large businesses, including many Colorado schools right here. Their security experts will review your system for free. Go to adsalarm.com. That's Alarm Detection Systems, adsalarm.com, and schedule today. adsalarm.com, Alarm Detection Systems, the first choice of Front Range and Colorado businesses, adsalarm.com. All right, last time he was in studio, Chris Murray was telling us, look, this Supreme Court case with this judge out of Washington, D.C. really should be tried out of Texas. He introduced us all to the term Habeas Corpus, which means show us the body. I'm having flashbacks of Jerry Maguire. Not show me the money, but show me the body.
Yeah, I think if that was show me the body, that probably wouldn't have been a family movie.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And Renee Zellweger wouldn't have been crying. Maybe she would be crying in a different way, but show me the body. So big Supreme Court decisions coming down yesterday. Let's start with the habeas corpus one and the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court essentially agreeing with Chris Murray. So there's
a first time for everything, Jeff. So good to be back with you. But yeah, when I was on the show, I think, about a week and a half ago, right? I think what I said to you was what was wild about this, and this is the Tren de Aragua case. Can Trump use the Alien Enemies Act, right? And we talked about, hey, there's lots of interesting things here, right? Including what's the extent of the Alien Enemies Act power outside of a declared war, right? The last times it was used was War of 1812, World War I, World War II, all declared wars, right? But what I said was, hey, all of that has to get decided in the context of a petition for writ of habeas corpus, because the only way you can challenge this kind of a deportation is in an action for you, for an individual, and for a writ of habeas corpus, and that has to be brought in the federal district where you're confined. And these Venezuelan immigrants are immigrants. That might be a loose term. Don't mean to insult like productive immigrants, like who we like in this country, right? But these Venezuelan nationals are being held in Brownsville, Texas. That's on the Mexican border. That's in the federal Southern District of Texas, not the District of Columbia. How did they sue in the District of Columbia? They challenged under the Administrative Procedures Act, which is something you use to challenge a bad regulation. The Supreme Court agreed with what I said the last time, which was that doesn't work. You have to sue where you're located, and that way, each time that there's a challenge, it just works for the one person who brought it, which, by the way, is the way habeas corpus is supposed to work. I don't think there's anything controversial about this decision. I think the only thing controversial about it is that it took the Supreme Court to get there.
Well, and did everybody agree on the Supreme Court with this one?
No, they didn't. So the three liberal justices dissented, and Justice, everybody's favorite conservative justice these days, Amy Coney Barrett, partially joined that dissent. Okay, and the first part, she joined parts 2 and 3 of the dissent. The first part was I will call it a screed by Justice Sotomayor, and I don't use that term lightly, about how inappropriate it is to use the Alien Enemies Act, right, to do this, and how this could never possibly be okay. So be it.
But this wasn't a question about the Aliens and Enemies Act, was it? It was a question about procedure.
Right. And so, but Sotomayor wanted to breeze past all of that.
Never miss a moment.
Right, exactly. Justice Barrett joined the second and third parts, which, if I were to summarize them, it's basically, I don't like the shadow docket. I hate getting cases that are on the fast track, right, where we have to act really quickly. This is a bad way for the Supreme Court to decide cases, and therefore, no matter what the merits of this are, we're the Supreme Court. We're not the middle court. We're the most important court in the country. We should act slowly, and if that means that sometimes some bad orders have to stick around for a while, well, we should just let them. I will say that I disagree with that. I think that she is making a mistake doing that, but that was her position. Remember the USAID case from about 4 weeks ago, right, where the $2 billion had to go out the door by midnight? Right. 6 justices did exactly this. They said, that's sort of a crazy order, but hey, we're the Supreme Court. We're not going to decide this big issue on the shadow docket on an emergency basis. This time, only 4 justices agreed with that, so emergency relief was granted.
Wow. We're talking with Chris Murray of First and 14th Law. Joining me also in studio is my co-host today, Conservative Momma, Rachel. So, look, my ex feed.
And by the way, Rachel, I'll just say this: smart move not taking Bill's chair.
Leave that to Adam. So my ex feed yesterday, a lot of anger towards Amy Coney Barrett, and people even saying at this point that this was Trump's biggest mistake.
Yeah.
Was Amy Coney Barrett. She's had
Do you remember the way she looked at him, though, when he was doing like the address to the Congress and he walked by her and it was like a death stare? I was like, oh my gosh, like she really genuinely does not like this guy at all.
You think that's the case?
She is very, guys, let's remember, Amy Coney Barrett, let's leave aside whether she likes him or not. Yeah. She is a very different person than Donald Trump, right? I mean, like a very different person. She is in her personal life anyway, an incredibly conservative Catholic, right? Very prim and proper, and looked like him, and also, I forget who somebody I was reading the other day was doing a big rant on people who read things, the difference between people who read and people who really don't, right? And was actually ripping on people who read, right? Saying that people who read won't follow their instincts sometimes, right? When something is really wrong, because there's always some nuance to point out. Amy Coney Barrett would go in the people who read camp, right? And Donald Trump, at least temperamentally, would go in the people who do not read camp, right? And so they're just very different people. I don't know whether she likes him or not, right? But there is no question that she has, over the last 3 to 4 years, come to this opinion that the Supreme Court should almost never be granting emergency relief, right? And where I think she is making a mistake in that, right? In a perfect world, she's right. It's the highest court in the land. It shouldn't have to do this, right? But if the Supreme Court doesn't smack down broad, lawless, nationwide injunctions that have no basis in law and lets them sit there for 2 or 3 years until the case finally makes its way up to them on a petition for writ of certiorari or on the merits docket, well, what are you incentivizing? You're incentivizing district judges, right, to go for broke, shoot for the moon, right, see what they can get away with. That will create more shadow docket litigation. That will create more emergency cases. If you make a few examples out of a few district judges early on, after a couple of years, the shadow docket's going to shrink again. And it's like taking care of weeds in your yard, man. Like you either get them at the start of the season, hello homeowners, right? Or you let them take over your yard, and now it's the middle of the summer, and you're like, I didn't want to spend my summer doing this. No. Well, if you would have done something in the springtime, you wouldn't be.
And isn't that the climate we're in, though, right now? It's just because of Trump, because of it's so contested that it's going to be like this. It just will. They're going to have to weigh in constantly with these activist judges.
I think that's partially right, but again, even really motivated liberal district judges, okay, if they know it's a losing, they got no chance, right? For example, really liberal judges who sit in conservative circuits, like the Fifth Circuit, they don't do this. Why? Because they just know that they're going to get reversed, right? It's going to make their life more complicated. They'll be embarrassed among their peers, and so it's just not worth it, right? They'll operate within the confines of what the law is, because there's no benefit to them going out on a limb. In the D.C. circuit, which is a almost 3-to-1 liberal to conservative circuit, and the D.C. District Court, which is almost 4-to-1 liberal to conservative judges, there's no such incentive unless the Supreme Court provides it.
We're talking with Chris Murray of First and 14th Law, joining me live in studio, as well as Conservative Momma. She's filling in for Bill today. All right, so what does yesterday's decision mean then for Donald Trump?
It means that Donald Trump can deport for the time being. Okay, it means that Donald Trump's proclamation that the Alien Enemies Act is in force is usable. He has to allow. This is a lot of conservatives who are celebrating this, right? Need to note one part about the majority opinion here. It said, going forward, you will provide enough notice to these people who are subject to a deportation order, right, under the Alien and Enemies Act, that they have time to go and seek a petition or file a petition for writ of habeas corpus. That's not a ton of time, but it's definitely like more than like a couple hours and you're already on the plane.
So how much time would that take, do you think, if you had to estimate?
Well, I mean, like, in my law practice, like, I do a lot of emergency litigation, so I would say, like, hey, you need, like, 24 hours.
Okay.
Right? I would bet another court might say, hey, you got to give them, like, maybe 3 or 4 days, right? A petition for writ of habeas corpus challenging this, it's not that complicated. You've got to say, like, hey, here's my name. Here's where I'm detained. Hey, I got this letter saying you're going to an El Salvadorian prison in 3 days, right? And I'm totally not a member of Tren de Aragua. Or I am a member of Tren de Aragua. This will be the interesting case, but I don't think the president has the authority to do that, right? Then that lets a judge say either, yep, writ of habeas corpus granted, let's talk about whether or not you can be kept here, or petition for writ of habeas corpus denied, enjoy your stay in El Salvador.
No, would it be better for the left to take a member of the Tren de Aragua gang and force that into the court?
I mean, better
to challenge the Alien and Enemies Act?
I mean, but here's the point in history we've arrived at, Jeff, okay? Better for the left.
Right.
Would it be better for the left to grab a member of one of the most violent transnational drug dealing gangs and use them as your plaintiff? Because strategically that'll help you, I guess, do what the left wants, which is flood the country with like violent rapists. Like,
right.
Okay. Yes, I guess that's the
I
answer.
mean, if they believe that Donald Trump has overstepped his bounds with the Alien Enemies Act,
as a matter of legal strategy,
yes.
like joking aside, absolutely, because it gets them to the underlying question. Can a president of the United States in a non-declared war, remember there's the other two possible, we don't have a declared war against Tren de Aragua, right? So is this an invasion, right, or a predatory incursion into the United States? Last time I was on with you, we talked about like, boy, it kind of looks like it might be a predatory incursion, if they're here to destabilize the country, right? Which is the argument that Trump is making in his proclamation. So, but that's a really interesting question. The left, I'm sure, will find a Tren de Aragua member who's like, si se puede, like, let's, go ahead and give me that legal representation. Let's fight it.
Do you need like an official statement where they can declare that, and then he has more of a right to get rid of these people?
I mean, Trump has issued that proclamation. He did it like on...
like declared war or...
Well, so if Congress declared war on Tren de Aragua
Right.
or in Venezuela,
yes,
then we'd be in the clear here. Okay?
Right.
I don't think even the Trump administration wants us to declare war on Venezuela, right?
Didn't he kind of declare war on the cartels? And
yeah, but
doesn't
Trump
that fall under that?
Trump can't declare war. Only the Congress can declare war, right? Yeah. So Trump can say, I think we're at war. I think we ought to be at war. But that's exclusively Article 1 congressional power.
So Trump's making the argument. Do you remember the old show Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the Foot Clan?
I mean, all right. I can sit here and pretend. No, yeah, I do.
Right.
Yeah.
These kind of just like unending foot soldiers for the bad guys that would just show up. And it's kind of
the
like
guys with the purple, like
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Like there's essentially what from what I understand, and I've talked to DEA guys, that's essentially what Maduro has, are these foot soldiers that he sent up that are actually working for the Venezuelan government, at least sending money back via Tren de Aragua to Maduro.
Right. I mean, and look, other countries have used throughout history, right, when you're trying to work in a foreign place, by the way, the United States has done it, okay? You'll work with criminal elements in unfriendly countries. I'm not legitimizing what Maduro's doing. It's just tale as old as time, right? I mean, that's just what countries do when they're trying to destabilize you. There is a really good, right? Or I'll say at least a definitely non-frivolous argument that this is a predatory incursion by Venezuela via Tren de Aragua. Trump made that argument in his proclamation, okay? If he's right, he can use the Alien Enemies Act to deport people in the way that he is trying to do it.
What I've noticed, he's trying to also move other aspects. So Tulsi Gabbard's report to the Senate Intelligence Committee and House Intelligence Committee for the first time included cartel activity as a national security threat to the United States. So in other aspects of Trump's leadership, he's looking at these cartels going, look, let's just go pure number of people that have died as a result of cartel activity. It dwarfs what happened on 9/11. So you have Americans dying by foreign actors organized, and they're coming into our country and killing Americans.
Right. I mean, and so the here's where the debate's going. I mean, and you asked this question last time I was on. Does it all kind of fit together? And I think I said something like, the Trump administration is becoming more and more consistent on this, saying we need to treat it as a national security problem. If we do, we think we've got the tools to solve it, right? And which, if we don't, maybe we don't, right? The debate is going to come down to this, right? In a predatory incursion, as it was probably understood in the 18th century, right, when the Alien Enemies Act was adopted in 1798, the idea that, oh, well, these people are coming in here and they're doing a bunch of criminal stuff and they're selling drugs to people, and that's how they're killing our people, is they're giving them drugs that our people apparently really want. I mean, and they're taking lots of these drugs and dying, right? I think there probably would have been a couple schools of thought among the founding generation about, well, does that qualify? Because some of the founding generation, I'm sure, would have said, if those people want those drugs, we can't help them. Right? Because if they're ingesting poison that these foreign actors are giving them and they know it's poison, right, then shame on them. However, I think another group of them would say, maybe that's true. But what if they just think it's fun poison? What if they don't think it's kill you poison, right? And to most of your listeners who have jobs, right, and are not like, boy, you know what I'd love to find is some delicious fentanyl this weekend. I was hoping for a great high, right? It sounds crazy to get those two things confused, but what Trump is saying is, look, this isn't a normal illicit drug trade, which is bad enough, right? This is a drug trade where a lot of these drugs are dosed or laced in such a way that they are intended to kill. They are not intended to just incapacitate or make stupid. They're intended to kill. Hey, if that's the intention, sounds like a predatory incursion to me.
There are several cases of that, though, where people thought they were popping a Xanax and they find their child dead on the floor. Like, that's a real thing that's happening. So
100%. I mean, and I think like that's where a lot of this debate about what this is ends up playing out.
All right, we're talking with Chris Murray of First and 14th Law. Sitting in for Bill Thorpe today is Conservative Momma. We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Conservative Momma Show on News Talk 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy out today, Conservative Momma, sitting in the studio as my co-host. By the way, people want to know her X account handle, Con Mama. How about Instagram, Facebook?
Conservative Momma on Instagram, Conservative Momma on Facebook. I'm all over the place.
And then Con Mama, 134,000 followers on X. Big time. Big time. All right. Joining us in studio as well is Chris Murray with First and 14th Law. And we got some questions. Adam, let's go to Tony in Littleton. Good morning, Tony. You're on the Jeff and Conservative Momma show with Chris Murray.
Hey, good morning. Chris, couple questions for you.
Sure, good morning,
Tony. Good morning. One is on the couple of people, at least a couple, that were not part of a gang. You know, they were taken out, moved to El Salvador. They're not a part of that gang, not a part of any gang. You know, I think the government said, "Oh, well, we made a mistake on that one." Yeah. Where do you come down on getting these people freed and back home?
Well, I mean, so first thing, if I think anybody would say, hey, if somebody was deported improperly, under any deportation order, right? So I don't think it matters what the authority is, right? You ought to be trying to help get that person back in the country, especially if they're in a supermax El Salvadorian prison for hardened gang members. I will say, so I'm not familiar with the second one. I am familiar with one case where there is the allegation that this gentleman, I think he's from Maryland, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people talking past each other here, and that doesn't mean Tony's question isn't good. It's just that so this guy had in the context of orders for deportation, right? So this guy was found in the context of a deportation proceeding to be an MS-13 member, right? And so eligible to be deported, okay? Even though he was otherwise, I think, a legal permanent resident of the United States, or he had some legal ability to be here, but the government could deport him because he was found to be an MS-13 member. A lot of folks in the immigration law community have said, and they're not wrong when they say this, whoa, like those sorts of determinations, he was never tried for being an MS-13 member. There was never an indictment against him. He was never criminally convicted beyond a reasonable doubt. They're all right when they say that. Our immigration laws, whether they should or not, right, permit sort of enhancement considerations like, well, we're pretty sure he's an MS-13 gang member, to be used to justify deportation orders, right? So when you hear conservatives, it's mostly conservatives say, well, he was found to be an MS-13 gang member. Yes, but he was not convicted of being a member of MS-13. And this is one of those places where everybody just talks past each other because nobody wants to acknowledge that the other side has a partial point.
But do you think he should have been deported?
So this is the other part that I have a hard time figuring out, because an administration lawyer basically said, no, we don't think he should have been deported, and we're going to see if we can get him back. And then that guy was frog marched out of DOJ, like literally within 4 hours, right? And told, no, actually, you said the wrong thing in court, bye, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It sounds like he could have been deported, right? Not under the Alien Enemies Act. There was a final judicial order for his deportation.
So a judge looked at it, right? A judge looked at him and said, yeah, go. Right. The Trump administration didn't just put him in a trebuchet.
Right. No, boy, good. Do you have a lot of like medieval enthusiasts listening to this show? Like the trebuchet reference is good. But if you want to argue, hey, we think that judge who ordered him deported and he had a final order for his deportation may have gotten it wrong, hey, I'm willing to listen to that. But that order was valid. So could he be deported? Yes. Under the Alien Enemies Act? No.
Interesting. Tony, follow-up question?
Okay. Second question, different subject. The law firms that are coming under fire for having brought cases against various Trump supporters and, there are various things. And they're now by executive order, being ordered, they can no longer communicate with anybody in a federal branch. I mean, I think this is the way the order reads. They cannot communicate with anybody in a federal office. Basically, they no longer can represent anybody who is going after the federal government for one thing, defending themselves against the federal government for one thing or another, basically it puts these guys out of business. And so now what I understand they're doing, one firm has proffered up $100 million in pro bono work to work on causes that appeal to Trump, and another one's put up $40 million.
Yep. Or I don't know which one was the $100 million, but one of them was the Skadden Arps firm. Yes. And I'm guessing you're asking Tony, like, hey, do I think that that's copacetic?
Yeah, I'd like to know your as an attorney, how do you feel that that's where our legal system is going?
Hey, man. So listen, like at the end of the day, like that's not great for anybody, because if you don't think the left is going to do that, right, to firms that are seen as friendly to conservative politics when they get in power, this all starts circling the drain really fast. I'll say that. Are
you saying they've already done that? Democrats have already banned.
No. I'm saying don't teach the Dems a trick that they're going to use when they get back in, right? Because you normalize this, right? I'll say that there's one firm that I accept from my concern here, and that's the Perkins Coie firm. That's the firm that laundered the memo that started Russiagate, and hid a campaign and hid a campaign finance contribution for these Democratic lawyers. I do a lot of work in the campaign finance space. If I would have done that at my old big firm, I would have been frog marched out the front door and turned over to the FEC. So.
Well, all right, Tony, appreciate the call. We've got some other calls coming in. Always good to hear from you, Tony. We'll continue. You're listening to Jeff and Conservative Momma, filling in for Bill Thorpe, along with Chris Murray on the Jeff and Conservative Momma show.
You're on Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out today. Conservative Momma sitting live in studio. And we got Chris Murray from First and 14th Law dissecting the Supreme Court decision that came out yesterday. Let's go back to the phone lines. Always love to take callers. Frank in Denver. Frank, you're on with Jeff and Conservative Momma and Chris Murray.
Chris, thank you, and Jeff and Conservative Momma. Appreciate Chris's comments from the lawfare and the legal side. I think the judicial and the legal system is going to be our protection, or it's going to be our break in the wall to whether this country lasts and how long it lasts. Watching the actions of the last number of years since Obama and the incursion and the increase of the activity with lawfare of the left, and their willingness to stoop to very uncouth and illegal means, I use all these activities as a biopsy of where our society stands and how and where the left side, the Democrats, are and what they're willing to do. I unfortunately do not see a lot of willingness on their side to try to meet the right halfway, and I unfortunately also do not see the right coming up with any long-term solutions to preventing some of these lawfare moves, such as
Frank, well, I want to ask Chris this. Just give us an overview of where you think the legal field's going to go. Your profession.
Well, that's what that was my question to him. No. But
go ahead. We got to get to Chris because we're near a break here. Go ahead.
My
go
comment
ahead.
comment to frame it is, I'm afraid the last 4 years of Biden set us back 20 years.
Yeah.
And if we keep having that disparity in a Democratic administration, we're going to keep losing. So, Chris, go ahead and take it. And,
go ahead. I'll say, I think remember at the top of the hour, Jeff, we were talking about the shadow docket, right? This is the Supreme Court's emergency docket. The right supposedly controls the Supreme Court. We fought for a generation to get that control. The Supreme Court is the only entity that will have the ability, right, outside of the bar, to disincentivize sort of lawfare, right, by saying crazy orders, nationwide injunctions from a single judge, right, hamstringing the political branches of government. No. Maybe every now and then we, the Supreme Court, will have to weigh in and say this doesn't work on the merits docket. But they have to be willing to enter emergency orders to stop this stuff. If they do that for a little while, they can put us back on the right track, because even liberal lawyers, even liberal judges, if they know they're just going to lose up there, they'll look for another way.
Well, what about, to Frank's question about lawfare, what they did to Trump, all the court cases this last summer, do you think that's going to continue, or do you think that there's going to be a settling and a return to what
we're either going to have? Well, so remember the Cold War, right? Mutually assured destruction. And the idea was, hey, we don't want that, right? So, let's not get it started. Unfortunately, the nuclear exchange on this has already begun. So the question is, can you wind it down? Trump's strategy is to say, here's a little taste of your own medicine. Do we want to keep doing this? I hope that's the second step. If that's the second step, we have a chance. If it is just, nope, I'm going to continue grinding you down and until I'm done with it, that's not going to be good for us. I think it would also probably help if the Republican Party managed to stay in the executive branch for more than one term.
Well, and there's got to be a reckoning in the sense that the left tried to use lawfare in an effort to win a presidential election, and the American people went, and pulled the lever for the felon anyways.
Listen, unfortunately, there has to be some reset of incentives. And I'm folks who know me know that I'm the least lawfare guy that there is, right? But there's no question the tactics that were used. And if you just, I am now sold on the idea that if you just allow one side to do that, right, and the other side is constantly says, oh, well, we're better than that, and we just, that would be wrong, right? Well, then, unfortunately for now, the other side says, great, so we can use that without consequence. I hope both sides, after this period that we're in, stop and say, maybe we just need to leave the political combat to the political branches.
All right, Chris Murray with First and 14th Law, all your political and public law, religious institutions, and complex civil litigation. Go to first-14th.com. That's first-14th.com. Brother Chris Murray, thank you so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Conservative Momma show.
It's always nice to be in here. And yeah, Conservative Momma, again, great job not choosing Bill's chair.
Yeah. Our audience always loves to have you on and appreciate you dissecting the U.S. Supreme Court case decisions. Coming up next, joining us, George Brauchler. You're listening to Jeff and Conservative Momma. It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Conservative Momma show. Bill's out today. He went to a Papa Roach concert last night. Way to embrace your youthfulness, Billy. Billy's even older than I am, and he's staying out late going to concerts. I can't do that much anymore. Starts to wear on you, but you still got that energy, Adam. You can push it to another level. You go to concerts late at night still? Because you get up early.
I try not to, but I stayed up last night. I did the same thing. Went to bar trivia. Stayed up till like 1 a.m. And
What
then-
is with my guys in bar trivia? Were you leading bar trivia?
Nope, just playing.
How'd you do?
I got 7th out of like 18 teams. So
That's not bad.
middle of the road.
Did you ever watch the Office episode where they go do bar trivia?
Oh yeah.
And then the guys end up not the brightest guys in the office end up doing pretty well. So what was the trivia theme last night?
There wasn't really a theme.
It's kind of all over?
Yeah, just each category had a different theme. Really, really random last night.
Oh, all right. So
Good thing.
you were up till 1 a.m. and Bill Thorpe's nowhere to be found. And joining me live in studio is Conservative Momma. And so it's the Jeff and Conservative Momma show today. Follow her on X at Con Mama or on Instagram, Facebook. She's got a huge following. She's got one of the biggest social media followings in Colorado. And she's going to be joining me live. And we also have coming up here in a second, George Brauchler, District Attorney for Judicial District 23. Headline from the Gazette, Douglas County Sheriff's Deputy justified in fatal Highlands Ranch main event shooting. We're going to talk about that, as well as Jenna Griswold wants to be the Attorney General. Oh, my goodness. That's just crazy. All right. We'll get to all of that and more this hour, but now is time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. 41 and mostly cloudy on this Tuesday in Denver. Expecting a high of 71 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the Supreme Court sides with DJT on the Alien Enemies Act. They swat the district commie Judge Boasberg.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Pam Bondi said it was a landmark victory for the rule of law. An activist judge in D.C. does not have the jurisdiction to seize control of President Trump's authority to conduct foreign policy and keep the American people safe. The Department of Justice will continue fighting in court to make America safe again. Chris Murray from First and 14th Law, once again back in studio on the show last hour.
It means that Donald Trump can deport for the time being. Okay, it means that Donald Trump's proclamation that the Alien Enemies Act is in force is usable. He has to allow. This is a lot of conservatives who are celebrating this, right? Need to note one part about the majority opinion here. It said, going forward, you will provide enough notice to these people who are subject to a deportation order, right, under the Alien and Enemies Act, that they have time to go and seek a petition or file a petition for writ of habeas corpus.
And American Enterprise senior fellow Mark Thiessen last night on Fox.
Big victory for Trump in the new lawfare. So the old lawfare was try to destroy Donald Trump, 91 indictments, 2 impeachments, civil suits to destroy him and all the rest of it. That all failed. He won the election and came back stronger than ever. And so the new lawfare is to try and stop him from implementing his agenda through a miasma of court cases. And this was a perfect example of it. And the Supreme Court is now allowing him to use this law. So this is a first victory in the fight against the new lawfare.
Ah, yes, lawfare. Someone who knows all about that, Secretary of State Jenna Griswold. She says that she's planning to run for Attorney General next year. Oh, great. The queen of the left in Colorado, royalty, who tried to keep DJT off the ballot in Colorado so peasants like myself couldn't vote for the evil orange man. And now Grizzy, she wants to be AG.
At this moment in time, we really need a strong, proven leader as Attorney General. We are seeing our rights and freedoms being attacked by the Trump administration. And I have the experience standing up to Trump and MAGA extremists.
Get that big stuff out of here.
And she sleeps at night after what she did last summer. DJT posting on Truth Social, Grizzy's favorite person, that his long-awaited physical examination will be Friday at Walter Reed, and he says that he's never felt better, but nevertheless, things must be done. And I'm certain Grizzy will be watching closely for news on that in the days to come here. Let's see, what else do we have? 47 says he'll raise tariffs. on China by another 50% if they don't get rid of retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. Today is the deadline for China to undo its 34% duties.
With China, as you know, against my statement, they put a 34% tariff on above what their ridiculous tariffs were already. And I said, if that tariff isn't removed by tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're putting a 50% tariff on above the tariffs that we put on. So they've gone for years. They've become a rich country because of people, again, that were in the White House that allowed this to happen.
A groundbreaking trial is getting underway in Denver this week. 45-year-old Michael Correa is the first non-U.S. citizen to ever be tried in a federal court for torture committed in another country. Correa is from Gambia, and he's been accused of torturing at least 6 people in that country. In 2006, he came to the U.S. in 2016, and he never left, eventually settling in beautiful Denver, Colorado. He was arrested in 2019 and was charged with multiple counts related to the alleged torture in 2020. National championship game last night.
Cryer, 6 seconds, 5 seconds, short. He walked, he can't touch it. He can't. 1 second, and it's over. Florida is back on top of the college basketball world.
Houston with the last look. The shooter got caught in the air, didn't know what to do. Great closeout defense by the Florida Gators, and Florida came back from a 12-point deficit to beat Houston 65-63, but this is the most important thing.
Ball is tipped, and there you are.
Oh, yeah, one shining moment was beautiful. Hope you watched it after the postgame if you're a sports fan. Another good one. An unvaccinated child has been diagnosed with measles in Denver County. State and local health authorities announced the child's illness on Monday. The child reportedly traveled recently with family to an area of Mexico where a measles outbreak is happening. The case does not appear to be linked to another case reported in Pueblo. Anyone who was at the Denver Health Emergency Department on Bannock between 10:30 in the morning and 4:30 in the afternoon on Sunday should monitor for symptoms for the next 3 weeks. Rockies back at it tonight at Coors, 6:40. First pitch against the Brewers, and the Golden Knights at the Avalanche this evening. 40 in Parker, 38 in Arvada, 41 in Denver. Jeff and the conservative mama in for Billy this morning. He was at a concert last night.
Holy Toledo.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Springtime in the Rockies. Beautiful weather over the next 3 days, maybe the next 4. Level clouds, and it might get a little bit breezy. We'll be low 70s today, near 70 tomorrow, deep into the 70s as we get into late Thursday and especially by Friday and Saturday. Breezy periods, likely dry until maybe a chance Sunday and Monday for showers. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. West Weather Center.
Headline coming from the Denver Gazette. Douglas County Sheriff's deputy justified in fatal Highlands Ranch main event shooting. The DA rules. We're going to talk with that DA here in just a second. I want to tell you about my friends over at the Art of Granite. Are you ready to transform your kitchen or bathroom into a stunning masterpiece? Look no further than the Art of Granite, your premier destination for exquisite I love that word, Adam. Exquisite granite, marble, and quartz countertops. For over 15 years, Mitch Floria, owner of the Art of Granite, has been crafting and installing custom countertops, fireplaces, showers, and more. Their team of experts will guide you through the selection process, ensuring you find the perfect stone to match your style and budget. Visit their showroom in Golden and browse their online inventory at theartofgranite.com. Discover the endless possibilities for your home renovation project. All you got to do, listen to this, guys. Mention KNUS and get a free bathroom countertop. All you got to do, mention KNUS and get a free bathroom countertop with new kitchen countertops, or choose a free kitchen or bathroom sink with any countertop package. So don't wait. Transform your home into the oasis you deserve. Schedule your free consultation with Mitch today. Go to theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com. Mention KNUS for those exclusive savings. Transform your kitchen or bathroom dreams into reality with theartofgranite.com. All right. So, joining me live in studio is Conservative Momma. Joining me live on Zoom is the District Attorney for Judicial District 23. And have you ever taken your kids to main event?
Yes, I have, actually.
Yeah, like a lot of times.
Yeah, we've gone. My kids love going there, actually.
Right, great event, a great place. And the shooting that took place earlier this year was wild. District Attorney George Brauchler determining that the Douglas County Sheriff's deputy who shot and killed a man after being dispatched to an active shooter situation at the Highlands Ranch main event was justified in using deadly force. He joins us now to give us his perspective on all this. District Attorney, thanks so much for joining Jeff and Conservative Momma.
Jeff and Conservative Momma, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's good to see
A
you.
little bit of echo there, Adam. Is that something that we can work out? Okay. All right. So let's go back to George, and hopefully the echo is not so bad. George, tell us why you felt like this was justified, the shooting by the sheriff's deputy was justified.
Well, let me start off by asking, is the echo better?
Yes, much better.
Yeah,
We're
much
good.
better. Okay, great. And listen, my view is the very visually pleasing Blake Olson right now. So, Blake, just to let you know, I can see just about everything you're doing, and I think we all wish you were wearing pants. Anyway, I did do the announcement yesterday. I found the shooting to be justified under Colorado's law. I had never done this before, Jeff and Conservative Momma. I had never done two things that I did in this case. One, I'd never met with the family of someone who I thought law enforcement had justifiably shot and killed in the line of duty. And I've done this for a long time. And you know, I had 88% of the population of Aurora during my first couple terms as DA. And so we had officer-involved shootings, and we had a good number of them. But I treated this one differently for a couple different reasons. And then I did a press conference to release the findings. Again, I've never done this before. But given the sensitivity of some of the issues that had been raised, the vast amounts of misinformation that were pushed out about this shooting, I thought, no, this is an opportunity in the post-George Floyd era to do something that makes this process both transparent and makes me more accessible to the public and the voters. And so we did this thing, and I thought it went pretty well.
Well, let's talk about how the family responded to that meeting with you.
Yeah, unhappy, as you can imagine. Anytime and this is a huge tragedy. There's nothing that could have been said or done through this process that was ever going to take away the loss of this young man from the people that loved him. You know, if you remember, he was at a main event, which I have also taken my kids to a jillion times, never at midnight, but I didn't even know they had a midnight there. But he had gone there on his birthday. He was there with the pregnant mother of his child and some other friends and family. And so, you know, this loss is not small. It's not a nothing burger. It's a huge deal for this family. And as you might imagine, when you sit in a room with one of the decision makers on how that loss is going to be treated in the court system, and you hear news other than, hey, we think your son, your future baby daddy, your brother was wrongfully killed by law enforcement, we're going to hold them accountable. Unless you hear that, you're disappointed. And so they were appropriately disappointed. I don't think they were ever rude about it, but it was a conversation that I needed to have with them. They listened to it. They had their attorney in the room, and then we went and did the press conference. And I imagine there'll be some aftermath from this, but from my standpoint, there isn't anything I could have or would have done differently.
We're talking with George Brauchler. He's the district attorney for Judicial District 23. George, looking at the details of what happened there, what in that deputy's response led you to decide that this was justified?
Yeah, I had the same reaction I imagine many did, and that was when you just watch those three videos that exist, the dash cam, the body cam, and the main event video that's kind of up on the wall there that oversees the parking lot, you know, your instant reaction is, my God, this unfolded so quickly, and your mind races to what alternatives might there have been, but that's not how the law works. Instead, the law works to say two things. One, we're not going to let the Douglas County Sheriff's Office investigate itself when one of its own is involved in an officer-involved use of deadly force. That makes total sense to me. We've been doing it that way since before the law changed. Second thing, though, is there's the statute that grew out of the George Floyd stuff that says, hey, here's the standard that has to exist. And so what you're really looking at its core, is when the officer makes the decision to use deadly force, do they have an objectively reasonable belief that either themselves or others are in imminent jeopardy of being injured or killed? It's very much a self-defense, defense of others standard that exists there. There's some other things they put in there that don't really apply to what we investigate, but there's a bunch of stuff related to self-defense or defense of others. And so when you look at this and you break down the frames of film that exist, what you see is a guy that had just been there. He had just been at main event, and he conducted a traffic stop on someone leaving there with their lights off. He didn't have the resources or extra manpower to go do a walkthrough of main event. Don't know how that might have changed the evening, but didn't have the ability. He's all by himself. He goes down the street to a Methodist church to finish typing in his information when this call comes out. Now, he doesn't hear any of the 911s, so we didn't play those yesterday because he couldn't have had that in his head. But he does see CAD reports, and he does get dispatch, and we played those things. And that dispatch and those CAD reports tell a story of an active shooter, lot of shooting, screaming, shooter at the front of the building, ongoing. Don't know how many shooters, don't know the race, gender, size, shape, color, nothing. Don't know anything about the shooters other than active shooter. Guy hits his reds and blues, rolls in, doesn't hit his siren because he said, tactically speaking, if I'm about to encounter a guy engaged in active shooting, I don't want to let him know this is where the guys that are going to try to stop you are. And so he hits the reds and blues, rolls up there, and he says, I'm surprised to encounter a guy with a gun. And that guy is Jalen Sebrin. And if you look at the videos and you break them down, you can see he's got that gun displayed and actually points it a few different times. Officer grabs the rifle, gets out of the car, confronts him at about 13 feet between two cars, gives him 3 commands over the period of about 3 or 4 seconds. Sebrin doesn't really respond by dropping the gun he's ordered to. He sort of starts to turn to the left. He's starting to turn towards the officer when the officer takes decisive and lethal action. And he fires 9 rounds. 8 of those rounds cause injury to Mr. Sebrin. Several of those rounds likely would have been lethal because of the trajectory and the organs that they penetrated with the rounds. But at the end of the day, you know, everybody that's in favor of saying Sebrin should still be alive, this should have been avoided, encouraged me to look at this like, well, the officer should have waited more, or he should have announced his presence differently than just rolling in with lights that we think that Sebrin saw based on the testimony of the deputy and the video that we saw. And honestly, Jeff and Conservative Mama, I don't see it. And it's not an analysis of could anything have gone differently. That's not it. The analysis is, was the decision made based on objectively reasonable belief? And so the way I had pitched it to the attendees at this press conference yesterday was, listen, if he had rolled up on scene, seen everything the same, but now instead of Jalen Sebrin, it's some mentally deranged or just straight up evil person who is legitimately threatening deadly force against someone else. I said, if that officer stands there 1 more second, 2 more seconds, and doesn't take action, and that shooter gets a round off and kills Jalen Sebring or somebody else who attended, people would be demanding the resignation of Sheriff Weekly, saying, why didn't your guy take action? My God, he had the drop on the guy. He announced, he said, drop the weapon 3 times. Guy didn't do it. How did you let him pull the trigger? That's what the deputy's thinking when he does it.
We're talking with George Brauchler. He's the district attorney for Judicial District 23. Now, George, can you give us an update on the other case related to this? There was an active shooting that took place in the bathroom of the main event. Were you in the process of prosecuting that case? In that case.
Well, we're set for a preliminary hearing this week, but I'll tell you that we recently heard that the defense is going to waive their right to a preliminary hearing. So Thursday's appearance will kind of be a big nothing burger. It'll be bound over to district court, which means we're on a glide path towards trial, other than for some motions, hearings, and an arraignment before that. We've been told at the arraignment that the defense is likely to argue a reduction in bond for their client, not unusual. But beyond the procedural stuff that exists, I really can't ethically discuss what has taken place inside, any other developments in the investigation. I can say this. I'm hopeful that what we did yesterday helps us move past this part of the case so that we can focus on the criminal part of the case. But beyond that, there isn't much I can say. If I had to guess right now, Jeff, I'd say if this thing is going to proceed to trial, it will be later in 25 or early 26. I could be wrong. I'm just building in my mind some of the obvious continuances and things that take place.
Talking with George Brauchler, he's the district attorney for Judicial District 23. Now, George, big announcement coming out yesterday on who could serve as Attorney General here in Colorado. Jenna Griswold, you've run for that very seat. Do you think Jenna Griswold's qualified to be Attorney General of Colorado?
One, thank you for reminding me of that horrific outcome only 7 years ago. I still have a Herbert Lom-like eye twitch that you can see on Zoom because of that. By the way, there are just few things as personally embarrassing as losing to Phil Weiser in anything, let alone a political campaign. But
I think losing to Jenna Griswold is in a whole nother category, brother. That is like in a universe all by itself.
You're right. I'll say this. No, I don't think she's qualified in any way. And I guess for those people that are out there wondering, well, I don't know. I think if you look at what she's been able to do with the limited authority of the Secretary of State, and now add to that the ability to have access to the statewide grand jury, I mean, it makes you shudder to think about that. So, no, I don't think she's ever demonstrated a mastery of any area of the law. I don't know that she's ever practiced law, Jeff. I mean, I think she has graduated law school, got involved in politics. I don't know if she's ever had a single client as an attorney. And then I think back on a guy named Phil Weiser, who was a dean, right? Like that dude spent 9 months in the Obama antitrust office and then like a cup of coffee doing that, and then claimed he was a former prosecutor. That guy had probably never had a client either. So I don't think she's qualified, but the way Colorado is, my man, she could win. There are 2 other candidates in this AG's race, and I don't know what Crisanta Duran's legal background is, but I do know Michael Doherty's. Michael Doherty is a legit practitioner of the law. This guy knows stuff. This is the prosecutor from the King Soopers massacre and a bunch of other cases. Having said that, voters don't care about qualifications. We are in a post-qualification political universe, and we see that every time there's an election. And I think for those that want to dismiss Jenna, remember this. She is a prolific fundraiser. She and Phil Weiser raise gobs of cash. She could win this thing, man. And after that,
Well, one of the things to point out, too, is that Jenna Griswold lost 9-0 at the U.S. Supreme Court. That should, I would pray, send a message that maybe she's not the most qualified to decide legal matters in the state of Colorado. Your thoughts, George Brauchler?
Well, yeah, but remember, our current AG has lost multiple times in front of the Supreme Court. In fact, even when he's argued in front of them, he's lost. So I don't know if it's a prerequisite or it's just a badge of the job, but losing at the Supreme Court seems like it's related to Democrat and statewide office.
That's a great point. Well, George Brauchler, I sure appreciate your time today. Thank you for the decision you made with regards to the Douglas County Sheriff's Deputy, giving us some explanation on that, as well as your thoughts on Jenna Griswold. You're doing a great job, and the seat's never been the same since you left. I'm sitting in it right now, and it's just gone downhill. So, but the people of Judicial District 23 are blessed to have you, brother. Thank you for taking time to join Jeff and Conservative Momma today.
See you guys. Today.
All right. So, Conservative Momma, I want to ask you your thoughts on Jenna Griswold.
I just don't even know. I don't know what to say. But like we were talking earlier, Colorado is just, it's a bunch of liberal, leftists, educated people that make the calls here, and they want to fix everything. They think they can fix everything, and as their attempt to fix, they are destroying. Total destruction.
Yeah, there's a savior complex I've noticed about them. So here's my thought on the voter in Colorado, because I think about this all the time. Yeah. We were involved in politics for the last dozen years in this state, trying to win things, and I'm trying to figure out, why voters keep going towards Democrats. So we're the second highest college-educated state in the nation. We got a lot of college-educated people here. Right. And when you think about somebody that's college-educated, they generally went through the entire government education process, right? From kindergarten through high school. Then they went to the university. Yeah. And I've learned, meeting all these teachers, that they're all pretty much socialists, right? They
at that point, they're fully indoctrinated.
Right, exactly. They're fully indoctrinated.
There's no penetrating and getting the truth to them at all.
They're in this, and if you read the very first page of the Communist Manifesto, it's all of history is oppressor versus oppressed. So they think in that mindset of all of history, everything is oppressor versus oppressed. And they look out at the world and they see people that they think are oppressed, the poor, those that aren't doing as well, that type of thing. And so they embrace this savior complex of we need to solve these problems.
Yeah, we're going to fix it.
We're going to fix it. Okay. So they're, because of their education and because of their beliefs and the way they look at history, they think that the government becomes the entity to solve these problems.
The government becomes God.
Yes.
Basically, it's their own religion.
And we're going to use government to solve the social ills of this world. Now, the flip side of this is that they're immune from the impact of the decisions that they make. Right. Okay? So they're college educated. They're generally smart enough to build a career and business that immunes them from the total impact of the policy decisions.
Yeah,
right.
It removes them. They don't live amongst these people.
Right.
They have their own little bubble that they live in. Usually a conservative bubble, like so often,
like Douglas County.
Right.
Yeah.
You see that in Highlands Ranch happening now. It's like, what? Yeah.
So, Douglas County is a perfect example of this, right? The county commissioners historically have been conservative. Yes. There's no homeless problem in Douglas County. Crime's relatively low because you have a great sheriff, Darren Weakley, all that stuff. But they'll continue to vote in Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Jared Polis, and they'll vote statewide. So the community that they live in.
School boards is what they often vote for. I mean, there's a constant battle down there for that as well.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So they get to live a life that immunes them from the decisions that they make public policy-wise, and then they believe that the government's going to be this great savior to solve all the problems. And conservatives, it's hard to break through that because they've spent 18, 22 years in that system of indoctrination.
Right. And they're told, I mean, I remember sitting at a huge university, Colorado State. And I remember, I was at the beginning phases of this where they started to really push like white people are the problem, patriarchy. Like I remember sitting in a women's studies course and it was all about the patriarchy and how terrible the patriarchy was, and we have to like get rid of the patriarchy. It was like constant. And then I remember sitting in a class being told I was the problem because of the color of my skin. And so I also feel like there's this self-inflicted guilt that they carry. Like it's, they've been given so much, and so now it's their turn to do something about it. And so they carry this guilt instead of, and they put it's like a Band-Aid on the issue, right? So in order to solve it, they just kind of like put a Band-Aid over it instead of like going to the root of these issues. And that's why I love conservatism, is because if you want to actually solve the problem, you have to go to the root of the problem. Like what is causing this issue? Why do we have high crime? Why do we have fathers leaving homes? Like what are the issues, and going to the issue, and then from there beginning to solve the problems. But what I was taught in school is, well, because you're privileged, we have to do this, and it was never solving problems or ever going to the root of the issue. And so for me, I feel like a lot of these people now carry that burden, I guess, that if they vote for more government to fix the problem, which is crazy because the government's creating the problem, so that the problem will be solved, but it's never solved, ever.
No, it's never. And they're at a point now where Tabor is the last thing that stands in their way, and they just really believe if we could get rid of Tabor, then all of our problems will be solved. But did you feel, I grew up in public government-run school here in Colorado, great school district, but I felt like I rebelled against it.
Yeah.
Like I had to break free of it. Did you feel the same way about CSU and what they were training you up there?
Well, I feel like I've never liked to just go with the flow. Like that's just never been I like just go along to get along. And I always have challenged what I'm told. But I wasn't like a rebellious child or anything like that. But if someone was telling me something, I'm just a natural skeptic. So I'd always want to ask motive. And so I'd question, like, why is this professor saying this? Like, what's their take? What do they get from this? What do they get from telling me this? And so I'd always be questioning that. And so I think it kind of made me the way I am now. I
naturally
trust no one.
skeptical.
Yes.
Well, and conservatives will look at the world and go, the problem is in here. The problem is me. I need to fix me. You need to fix yourself.
Yeah.
That will fix our society problems. Progressives, primarily, socialist Marxists, go, they're the problem.
Yes.
Somebody else is the problem, and we need to fix them.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if we want to solve crime issues, we need dads to be in the home.
Right.
They need to fix themselves.
Yeah.
It's not a government. There's no government problem.
No.
That needs to get dads to take their kids more seriously.
Right.
They need to fix themselves to
Right.
do that. And progressives will go, no, it's the rich, or it's Tabor, or we need to go solve somebody's problem for them.
Right. It's always a victim mentality
Yeah.
of someone else.
Well, joining us live in studio, Conservative Momma, as Bill Thorpe is still recovering from hanging out with Papa Roach last night. Yes, that's what Bill does. All right, phone lines are open. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Two things we were talking with George Brauchler about. Highlands Ranch main event shooting, DA rules justified. Do you agree with that? Secondly, Jenna Griswold is putting her name on the ticket to be Attorney General. Attorney General of the Colorado. She lost 9-0 at the U.S. Supreme Court. Progressives thought she was a dope when it comes to interpreting the law. Now we want to make her Attorney General? Give me a break. But as George pointed out, you got to take her seriously. She can raise lots of money. What do you think of Jenna Griswold as your next potential Attorney General? All right, phone lines open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out. He was hanging out with Papa Roach last night and taking the morning off. So joining me live in studios, Conservative Momma, huge following. She does a lot of fun, like satire videos. That's exactly right. Satire videos, making fun of the left. Huge following on X, Instagram. Go to Con Mama on X and then Conservative Momma on Facebook and Instagram. Do you want to take some calls?
Yeah, let's do
All
it.
right, let's go to Mark in Highlands Ranch. Good morning, Mark. You're on with Jeff and Conservative Momma.
Yes. I was listening to watching the legislature last night, and they passed the resolution in the Finance Committee to try to get rid of Tabor. And it was 7-6. 7 of the people who sponsored it were in the Finance Committee, and they're all Democrats. So what we need to do is to unite the Republican Party and fight the Democrats is to publish their names, that these are the people who are trying to get rid of Tabor, and hammer that home. Every day you put that out there. You know, you have a little segment where you read the names, or at least the ones that are in your broadcast area, that these are the people who want to get rid of Tabor.
And they're going to do it via a lawsuit. They're going to do it via a lawsuit because they keep losing at the ballot box. Every time that Tabor is brought up on a vote, the people of Colorado go, yeah, we like the idea of a balanced budget. We like the idea that if you're going to raise taxes, you have to ask the people. We like the idea you can't spend more than you take in. And we like the idea you can't just decide we're going to raise taxes right down at the Colorado State Legislature. It's got to be done via the will of the people. And every time that goes to the ballot box, the people of Colorado go, yes, but now they're going to try to bring up a lawsuit. We had Christy Burton Brown on last week to talk about this lawsuit. She did a great analysis of it. They've tried this before. But what's sad, Mark, is they're going to use your tax dollars to go do a lawsuit to try to take your tax dollars. We're going to be the ones that pay the attorneys to go try to sue to overturn Tabor so they can have unlimited control of taking your tax dollars. And guess who's going to defend this lawsuit? Phil Weiser and Jared Polis via your tax dollars. So your tax dollars are paying everything in this, Mark.
Yes, I'm very much aware of that. It was interesting last night listening to it, because all the people that were in favor of this lawsuit going through were all the people with their hands out at the public trough.
Yeah, that is exactly right.
Every one of them was at the public trough trying to get the money. The people that were against it were, don't want to be at the public trough.
Mark, you're exactly right. Thanks for calling attention to that. And look, it's not going to change until you get rid of the Democrats out of the State House and State Senate. Until you vote them out, this is something they bring up all the time. Great call, Mark. Sure appreciate it. Hey, I want to tell you about some good people. That's the Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun. But the snow means even more to Colorado agriculture, and I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. The people of Colorado agriculture always have conservation, efficiency, and reuse top of mind when it comes to water use. As the metro area continues to grow, the Colorado Farm Bureau leads talks with state policymakers about preserving water for all areas of the state. As pressure on the water system grows, it's going to take all of us to find a solution. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation, water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join them today. All right, we'll continue. We got phone calls coming in. Ooh, Neil from Wheat Ridge is a big fan of Conservative Momma. He's going to talk to you next. You're listening to Jeff and Conservative Momma
on Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out today, hanging out with Papa Roach last night. He sent me pictures. It looks like an awesome show, but God love him. He can stay up late. Getting too old for that stuff. In studio with me is Conservative Momma. And let's go to the phone lines. Neil from Wheat Ridge. Good morning, Neil. You're on with Jeff and Conservative Momma.
Jeff. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. So how did you get the popularity and the popular and effervescent Colorado Mama to come in?
Not by my doing, or my wife is friends with her.
Yeah.
So that's how.
We know each other.
Well, I'll tell you what. She should be, first off, hired by the Secret Service as a fill-in for either Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene. Whenever they're traveling, I'll tell you.
She'd be good elected official. You'd vote the right way, and you'd give the Democrats some good grief being on the floor.
Only if it was local, though. I'm very much into being a mom, and I love being a mom, and that's number one for me. So if it was something local that didn't take me away from my family as much, yes, but I have zero desire to go to DC. Zero.
And so people may not know this, and Neil, people may not know this, but when she does her spoof videos, her satire videos, she puts on wigs and stuff,
Yes.
sometimes multicolored wigs, and you act like a progressive, and it's hilarious. I mean, hundreds of thousands of views. You could do that as a lawmaker, which would be hilarious. Like, get a wig like McCluskey wears down there, and then just act like Julie McCluskey down on the floor of the House and totally lampoon the left. It would be brilliant.
Sometimes they need to see it, though, right?
The difference is she has something under that wig, unlike some of the Dems do.
That's good, Neil.
Thank
She
you.
actually has a brain. Yes. Unlike your potential attorney general. What do you think of Jenna Griswold becoming attorney general, Neil?
Oh, please. After everything she's done to screw up with the website in August and things like that, and how people can forget about that, she has no more business being that or a dog catcher.
No, it feels like Colorado finds literally the dumbest person around is like, you lead us.
All I got to say is, Conservative Mama, keep up the good work. I really appreciate what you do, and I think it's not only good quality, but it is funny as all get out.
Well, thank you, Neil. I appreciate that. It's very sweet.
Neil, you made her day. Well done. Neil from Wheat Ridge, appreciate it. We're going to continue our conversation with Conservative Momma live in studio. Hadley Heath Manning's going to join us in the next hour. She's the executive vice president of the Steamboat Institute, because they're going to host a big debate at the University of Colorado. Should transgender athletes be allowed to compete in women's sports? And we're also going to talk about, you saw probably the fencing video. You probably saw the Frisbee too. I thought we won a national election on a referendum that dudes shouldn't be participating in women's sports. Why is the left doubling down on this?
That's what's so wild to me. I actually did a satire, like a video, a parody on that. Like, let's just stick with it. They lose horribly, and they're like, let's just keep doing what we've been doing. I mean, let's argue to keep illegal criminals here, to endanger Americans. Let's do that. Let's have men playing in women's sports. Like, I don't get it. Like, America said no to this, and they're like, well, we're going to stay with it. And I don't know who's directing them right now. Who is leading the Democrat Party to saying, yeah, double down on it?
Did you see the post that said Donald Trump should just come out and claim that he's a woman? And because if he does that, then he, according to leftist logic, is a woman,
Yes.
and ergo the first woman president.
And
So
just,
we've gotten
we should
across
just do it
that.
and get it over with.
Right.
Because
So
that's what they
now
want
we're
so
done.
badly, right?
We're
Yeah.
done.
Okay, it's been done.
And then if the left can't handle that, then aren't they admitting to the fact you can't just assume a new gender?
Yes.
So Donald Trump could solve that problem right there.
Well, there
just
you
declare
go.
he's a woman.
Did you see that in England? I think it was like a pool championship.
Yes,
and it
where
was
there's no
two
women?
guys, yes, like acting as women to compete for. I was like, this is a parody. Like, this is insane. And this is where we're at, and they're like still like applauding, like seals, clapping. Yes, let's keep doing it. It's a losing strategy. So I there's a part of me that's like, I hope they keep doing it. Like, just don't redirect, just keep doing this because it's going to lose you again?
Well, during the last election, the most effective ad that everybody found was Kamala Harris talking about how she was going to fund sex change operations for illegal immigrants. And it wasn't because the right was wanting to bash the transgender community. It was because it shows just how extreme their level of thinking goes. Like the fact that that even enters your mind as an elected official to go, you know what we should be using our limited tax dollars on? Sex change operations for illegal immigrants. It just showed how out of touch they are. They continue to do that. All right. Conservative Mama will continue with us. Hadley, Heath, Manning with the Steamboat Institute's up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Conservative Mama Show. It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Conservative Momma Show. That's right, Bill. Hanging out with Papa Roach last night. I love the text messages. They're like, I bet Billy was absolutely in the mosh pit, being hoisted up and people having fun with him. He is the life of the party. We always love Bill Thorpe. We miss him today, but he was having fun last night. He'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry, all of y'all progressives that rely on Bill to fight for your point of view, he'll be back tomorrow. But joining me live in studio is Conservative Momma. She's known as Con Mama on X. She's on Instagram, Facebook. She has a huge following because she does these satire videos where she acts like a progressive liberal woman. How did you do that so well? How do you act like a liberal woman so well?
Well, my background is like theater and film and all of that. So you
go to the absurd, you're saying, right?
Comedy of the absurd, actually. And I like was surrounded by a lot of that when I lived in Los Angeles, that liberal leftist mindset. And of course, going to a college or university that's leaning left. So I think I love hearing their point of view, and you do actually have to have some empathy for them in order to play them. So I try to understand like where they're coming from, and then I just go for it.
Because, and I've run into this because I interview a bunch of them, and I've had videos go kind of viral when I'm down talking to people at these protests. They really care.
Yes.
Like they put time into their signs. Yes. They show up. They really, really care. Mm-hmm. But then you find that they don't get to the second level of logic.
No.
So they'll hold a sign that says, Donald Trump's a king. We don't elect kings in this country. And you're like, I agree with you that we don't elect kings. Tell me what Donald Trump's done that makes him a king in your mind.
He's just a king. He's a king. He likes being a king.
Yeah, right.
He's a king. King Charles. What? No. I'm sorry. What happened? Yeah, no, that's how it is. It's very surface. And then when you kind of push back, it's emotion hits you hard with them. So it's asking a question. When they realize they don't have the answer, then they get hysterical. Like, hysteria hits and then they're angry.
All right, Conservative Mama's co-hosting along with me. Bill will be back tomorrow. We got Hadley, Heath, Manning coming up here in just a second. There's going to be a debate held at the University of Colorado. This is a big one with Jennifer Say, the founder and CEO of XXXY Athletics, and Kevin Bowling, the executive director of the Secular Student Alliance. They're going to be debating. Here is the question: should transgender athletes be allowed to compete in women's sports? I thought we settled this with the election, but I guess not. That's going to be April 9th, coming up tomorrow at the University of Colorado Boulder. You're not going to want to miss this conversation with Hadley, Heath Manning of the Steamboat Institute. But now it's time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. 41 and mostly cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 71 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, 47 says that he had a really good meeting with South Korea. And then DJT is also threatening to up tariffs on China by another 50% if they don't get rid of retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said today is the deadline for China to undo its 34% duties that were put in place in the reciprocal tariffs announced last week by the White House.
We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do this, what I'm doing. And I'll tell you what, it's an honor to do it because we have been just destroyed, what they've done to our system. We have $36 trillion of debt for a reason. And the reason is that people allowed it to get that way. So we'll be talking to China. We'll be talking to a lot of different countries. And I think, if we can make a really fair deal and a good deal for the United States, not a good deal for others. This is America first. It's now America first.
The Supreme Court is weighing in on the high-profile case of a mistakenly deported Maryland man. Chief Justice John Roberts issued an order Monday indefinitely blocking the deadline for Kilmar Garcia to be returned to the U.S. from El Salvador. A federal judge ordered the Justice Department to bring Garcia back from El Salvador by midnight. In a court filings, White House attorney said Garcia was deported over an administrative error, but said they can't bring him back due to him being in Salvadoran custody. The Supreme Court sides with DJT on the Alien Enemies Act. Here's what they said to District Commie Judge Boasberg.
Get that big stuff out of here!
Yeah, get it out of here. Pam Bondi said it was a landmark victory for the rule of law. An activist judge in D.C. does not have the jurisdiction to seize control of President Trump's authority to conduct foreign policy and keep the American people safe. The Department of Justice will continue fighting in court to make America safe again. Chris Murray, First and 14th Law, was on the show this morning.
It means that Donald Trump can deport for the time being. Okay, it means that Donald Trump's proclamation that the Alien Enemies Act is in force is usable. He has to allow. This is a lot of conservatives who are celebrating this, right, need to note one part about the majority opinion here. It said, going forward, you will provide enough notice to these people who are subject to a deportation order, right, under the Alien and Enemies Act, that they have time to go and seek a petition or file a petition for writ of habeas corpus.
And that could take 24 hours to possibly 3 days, depending on the situation. Secretary of State Jenna Griswold says that she's planning to run for Attorney General next year. Oh, that's great. The queen of the left in Colorado, royalty, who tried to keep DJT off the ballot in Colorado so little working class folks like myself couldn't vote for the evil villain DJT. And now Grizzy, hey, she wants to be the AG.
At this moment in time, we really need a strong, proven leader as Attorney General. We are seeing our rights and freedoms being attacked by the Trump administration. And I have the experience standing up to Trump and MAGA extremists.
Dude, my cousin Vinny would be better. Someone texted that in.
Oh, that's good. I love
Joe
it.
Pesci,
absolutely,
with no experience, would do better than Jenna Griswold.
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
Two Utes.
Yeah,
Two Utes.
He actually loves America. Imagine that.
He actually read a law book.
Yeah, he probably likes freedom too.
And one in a courtroom.
Man, that's amazing. Yeah, what you talked with George about is incredible. In fact, I'm going to play it right now. The great DA himself, George Brauchler, on the show with Jeff and Conservative Momma. Last hour chimes in on Grizzy Griswold.
No, I don't think she's qualified in any way. And I guess for those people that are out there wondering, well, I don't know. I think if you look at what she's been able to do with the limited authority of the Secretary of State, and now add to that the ability to have access to the statewide grand jury, I mean, it makes you shudder to think about that. So, no, I don't think she's ever demonstrated a mastery of any area of the law. I don't know that she's ever practiced law. Jeff, I mean, I think she has graduated law school, got involved in politics. I don't know if she's ever had a single client as an attorney.
Wow. The problem is, as George points out, she knows how to raise money. And you know what? Voters don't care about qualifications. She'll be a challenge to defeat.
Cryer, 6 seconds, 5 seconds, short. He walked, he can't touch it. He can't. 1 second, and it's over. Florida is back on top of the college basketball world.
And there you are.
Oh, the shining moment last night. The Florida Gators are on top of the men's college basketball world after a 65-63 win over Houston in the national championship at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, their first title in nearly 2 decades. Walter Clayton Jr. was named the Final Four's most outstanding player. Let's see. Parody accounts on Elon's X are facing new, stricter rules effective this Thursday. Users will be required to use the words like fake or parody as the first word in the account name. They are also required to use images that are different than those that they are representing. In a post on X, a spokesperson said that these changes are meant to help reduce confusion or impersonation. I don't have a problem with that. Use FAUX, Foe. That's a good one. A groundbreaking trial is getting underway in Denver this week. 45-year-old Michael Correa is the first non-U.S. citizen to ever be tried in a federal court for torture committed in another country. Correa is from Gambia, and he's been accused of torturing at least 6 people in that country in 2006, came to the U.S. in 2016, and he never left. Eventually settling in Denver, he was arrested in 2019 and was charged with multiple counts related to the alleged torture in 2020. All right, the Rockies back at it tonight at Coors Field, 6:40. First pitch against Milwaukee. Golden Knights at the Avalanche also this evening in Lodo. 41, it's 40 in Parker, 38 in Arvada, and 41 in Denver. Jeff and the Conservative Momma in, and they continue because Billy is out. He was at a concert last night, had a late night.
And listen, my view is the very visually pleasing Blake Olson right now. So, Blake, just to let you know, I can see just about everything you're doing, and I think we all wish you were wearing pants.
That stinks. I hate that. I got to go put some pants on. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Springtime in the Rockies. Beautiful weather over the next 3 days, maybe the next 4. Level clouds, and it might get a little bit breezy. We'll be low 70s today, near 70 tomorrow, deep into the 70s as we get into late Thursday and especially by Friday and Saturday. Breezy periods, likely dry until maybe a chance Sunday and Monday for showers. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. West Weather Center.
We're going to be joined here in a second by Hadley Heath Manning with the Steamboat Institute. But look, reliability isn't optional when business security is on the line. It's essential. Businesses trust alarm detection systems for the highest level of service and expertise. Think about the time you could be saving with just one source for your cameras, key card access, fire, and intrusion systems. ADS offers expert alarm installation and testing by highly trained technicians, 24/7 professional monitoring, same-day or next-day service upon request, because downtime, it's not an option for your business. Dedicated teams for cameras, access control, and fire alarms, and over 300 security professionals working for you. Choosing ADS, Alarm Detection Systems, means your business stays protected and will be ready to open tomorrow. This is especially important in Colorado, where it feels like crime is out of control. They combine human monitoring with the latest AI camera technology to prevent crime in real time. Trusted by small and large businesses, including many Colorado schools, their security experts will review your system for free. Go to adsalarm.com and schedule today. adsalarm.com, alarm detection systems, the first choice of Front Range and Colorado businesses, adsalarm.com. All right, tomorrow night up at the University of Colorado, should transgender athletes be allowed to compete in women's sports? And this is going to be a debate between Kevin Bulling, the executive director of the Secular Student Alliance. Sounds like a great organization. And then Jennifer Say, founder and CEO of XXXY Athletics and the 1986 National Women's Gymnastics Champion. She's awesome. All those really popular hats you see, XXXY, that comes from her. She was formerly brand president at Levi's as well. And hosting this debate is the Steamboat Institute with their Campus Liberty Tour. And joining us now on the Jeff and Conservative Momma show, Hadley Heath Manning, Executive Vice President at the Steamboat Institute. Good morning, Hadley.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for having me on. What a hot topic,
So,
women's sports.
Yeah, Conservative Momma's in studio because Bill's out today. He was at a concert, got involved in a mosh pit incident. We'll get to that tomorrow. But Hadley, we were just talking, didn't the election kind of settle this issue that maybe dudes competing in women's sports isn't the brightest idea. Your thoughts, Hadley?
Yeah, well, I'm glad I have the opportunity to comment on that, Jeff, because I do think that that's the perception a lot of Americans have, that since the ink dried on President Trump's executive order, that this issue is gone, it's resolved, everything's been fixed. However, that's not the case. You know, of course, with any executive order, the next president, if he or she is a Democrat or if he or she sees this issue differently, can do, you know, exactly what Trump did and reverse his predecessor. So President Biden's the one who introduced the idea of gender identity into Title IX. And what President Trump did was simply reverse that and say, no, we're not going to go by gender identity in women's sports. We're going to go by biological sex. That executive order, of course, did have a ripple effect throughout the country. And right now what we've seen is most states, the vast majority of states, have complied. Other organizations like the NCAA and other regional or national sports organizations have changed their policies. You know, some people are still debating the NCAA policy, if it's strict enough, if it really goes far enough to protect female athletes. However, the debate is ongoing, and we've seen even in the last week, Jeff, an incident at Ithaca College where a rower who, you know, was born male, is a man, was on the women's rowing team at a Division III rowing competition. And then we also saw USA Fencing had a regional tournament at University of Maryland. And it's very, you know, the imagery is now very famous of a young women fencer named Turner. She took a knee rather than face an opponent who is male in the women's fencing division. So we still see incidences of this, and I'm interested in, of course, having this debate. I think it will be interesting at CU Boulder to see what kind of audience we get there, because nationally this issue polls about 80% support for having only women athletes, only female athletes in women's sports. However, on campus at CU Boulder, that might not be the balance in our audience. And we always do a pre-debate poll. We always do a post-debate poll and kind of compare where people are. But as you mentioned, this is part of our Campus Liberty Tour. We have a series of debates across the country on various topics on college campuses. And this is tomorrow night at the University of Colorado Boulder. Anybody in the area who wants to come, it's a free event. And so I encourage people to come, show up. You can register online at steamboatinstitute.org, but even if you don't register, you can still come. It's at the Touchdown Club, and it's going to be a great debate. As you mentioned, Jennifer Say and Kevin Bowling are going to bring the fire.
We're talking with Hadley Heath Manning. She's the Executive Vice President at the Steamboat Institute, joining me live in studios. Conservative Momma, as Bill's out today. So, look, I remember when this all kind of started, and there was this kind of feel-good effort to want to include members of the transgender community into sports, right? Like, okay, we want them to feel like they can be a part. They identify as a woman. They can now play in the sports. And over the course of, I would say, the last 2 or 3 years, you've seen real consequences from that decision, where women are being injured in sports. They're losing out on scholarships. They're getting cut from teams. That there were clear biological advantages of a man, even if he did transition to competing in women's sports. And it seems, I thought, that our culture was like, well, that was an idea we entertained, but clearly we want to move back away from it. It's video after video of a woman with a broken nose or a fractured skull from a volleyball being smashed into her face, or a man winning a track competition by like a half a lap versus all the women. And to your point, it's like 80% of the general public is like ready to move on. Who is still holding on to this idea that dudes, men, biological men, I don't care if you tried to transition or put on a wig or whatever, you're still a man, you have a biological advantage, and you're injuring women and you're shutting them out of scholarship opportunities and trophies and harming their career. Who still believes this is a good idea?
Well, Jeff, you left one big injury off that list, and that's the self-inflicted injuries to the Democratic Party because of this issue. I mean, when you have so much of the public looking at this, I mean, I've compared this issue a lot to the Emperor Has No Clothes, that fable. You know, everybody's looking at it, and at first it was like, who's going to speak up? You know, is there something, we feel like there's something not right about this, right? Who's going to speak up and say the Emperor has no clothes? And then ultimately, here and there, people did start to speak up. You know, you had people like Riley Gaines, who was kind of thrust in this into this position where she was competing against Will Thomas, also known as Leah Thomas, in NCAA swimming. You had Paula Scanlon, who was a teammate of Leah Thomas or Will Thomas. And so those people were really the tip of the spear. But after that, we did see this big pushback, this big movement. And I think it was a big part of the election last year, Jeff. I know people point to the economy. If you poll people and ask them what was the number one issue, people didn't say this issue. But among people who said that this issue was important to them, they broke heavily for Trump. And I think that's the issue up and down the ballot for Democrats that's maybe holding them back the most. People see this as a radical position that the far left has staked out inside of the Democratic Party. And that's why I think you're starting to see certain Democrats, Governor Gavin Newsom recently came out and said, actually, I don't think we should have male athletes in women's sports.
Right.
So I'm very curious to see where this goes.
When you lose Gavin Newsom, maybe reevaluate. So, look, Bill and I oftentimes have a back and forth, and I think an intelligent person can at least anticipate what the other side is going to argue. Kevin Bowling, executive director of Secular Student Alliance, is going to be arguing the affirmative that transgender athletes should be allowed to compete in women's sports. What do you anticipate his argument is going to be tomorrow?
Yeah, Jeff, I think this is where the two sides have really disagreements that go deeper than the issue of sports. And I hope that we get into those tomorrow night, 5:30 at the Touchdown Club at University of Colorado Boulder. I encourage people to come up there and listen for themselves. I don't want to misrepresent what Kevin's going to say. I do anticipate that he will make an argument that rather than talking about biological men in women's sports or men in women's sports, I mean, this is where they're just so far apart on the fundamental issue that he refers to these athletes as transgender women, and so we're going to have a debate about what that means. Some of my experience with this issue, I believe if I'm pointing to the strongest arguments on the side of inclusion, which is really the exclusion of female athletes, but on the side of including transgender athletes in women's sports, I would say it's, pointing to the reality that sports, people have varying abilities. And yes, you can draw this binary in sex between male and female, but you could also divide people in other ways. You could, put people in different categories, as, for example, we do in the sport of boxing, based on their weight, based on their size. So you could certainly imagine a world where rather than competing in categories based on sex, we were based on physical size, shape, ability. That's an interesting argument. However, ultimately, I think this issue, your views on sports and how people should compete in sports and how people should be grouped in sports will be downstream of bigger questions that you have to answer about the nature of humanity, the nature of sex, the nature of gender. And so this conversation's, I think, going to get pretty deep tomorrow night. And I hope that we hear from Kevin. I know that he has great concern, as many advocates for LGBT youth and other people do, about the mental health and the effect on these athletes when they are excluded. I, too, have concerns about the mental health of our youth of all different types. We're living in a time where people are addicted to cell phones and pornography and sports betting, and we've got a lot of, mental health issues as a country, and I hope that we pay attention to those things. But at the end of the day, sports is something where we have policies and rules about how people compete, and we have to have a discussion about that. So I'm looking very much forward to hearing from Kevin and Jennifer Say tomorrow night at our debate.
Yeah, let's talk about Jennifer Say. By the way, we're talking with Hadley Heath Manning, Executive Vice President of the Steamboat Institute, about a debate that's going to take place tomorrow night at the University of Colorado Boulder. Should transgender athletes be allowed to compete in women's sports? We've had Jennifer on the show before. I'm very impressed with her leadership. She came out of the corporate world, brand president at Levi's, and has now spoken out against the corporate world on this issue, launched her own new brand, has partnered with some incredible people like Riley Gaines. Tell us about who Jennifer Say is.
Yeah, Jennifer's a friend, and we first got to know each other during the COVID pandemic. This was, people talk about the women's sports issue as a wedge issue. COVID was also a huge wedge issue that kind of drove people, I think, ultimately to question a lot about their political affiliation and their prior assumptions about, who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. And at that time, Jennifer was living in San Francisco. And she moved to Denver because, believe it or not, Jeff, Denver is better than some places in the country. And so she came here. Her kids started going to school in Denver. We have kids close to the same age. And I got to know Jennifer. We shared a lot of feelings and desires about the COVID pandemic and what we thought was best for our kids. So we really got to know each other through that issue. But of course, she does have this amazing background in sports. She, as you mentioned, she's a national champion in women's gymnastics. And she had written about that issue. Her first book was actually about sort of the what female athletes had to endure in terms of the training and the sacrifice, and also the some of the scandals that have afflicted, especially women's gymnastics, when it comes to coaches taking advantage of those players, sexually assaulting and abusing those players. And so she was first to speak up about that issue. So courage is not something new to Jennifer. It's something she's exhibited throughout her life. But when this issue came into the spotlight, I think she knew, much like Queen Esther in the Bible, that it was for such a time as this, that she had been given this life experience and she had been given, this specific place and time and message to share about fairness and about courage and standing up. And I will say one of the most compelling conversations that I've ever had with Jennifer privately was just about the cost of speaking up, even about COVID, during the COVID pandemic, that this affected some of her friendships and personal relationships in such an intense way. And of course, many of us have unfortunate stories like that. But she just believes that the most loving thing you can do is to speak the truth. And that's what she's continued to do, whether it was about COVID or other issues. And I think she's a very sincere person. I think that her arguments will resonate with a lot of people tomorrow night. So I'm very excited to have this debate between Kevin and Jennifer.
Should transgender athletes be allowed to compete in women's sports? This is the debate tomorrow night, Wednesday, April 9th, 5:30 p.m. at the University of Colorado Boulder. You can attend in person by going to steamboatinstitute.org. That's steamboatinstitute.org. Will you be live streaming it?
We will be live streaming on our YouTube channel. You can find the link to that as well on steamboatinstitute.org. When you go to our website, look for the Campus Liberty Tour, look for upcoming debates, click on the one about transgender athletes, and you'll find the link to the live stream. Or you can go to YouTube and search for it. But I encourage people to come to our website. You can learn more about all of the debates that we're putting on this spring. We do a series every semester, and we've got a very busy April kicking off this Wednesday, tomorrow, April 9th at CU Boulder.
I want to ask you about how students respond to these debates. You see the shouting back and forth. We saw the videos of Turning Point, tables being kicked over by Antifa. Can you still hold a respectful debate on these college campuses that tend to lean progressive? And how do the students respond?
Overwhelmingly positively, Jeff. And I think that is mostly due to the fact that the Steamboat Institute is insistent upon having a civil, fair, substantive debate. This is not going to be a shouting match. This is going to be something where we expect both debaters to exchange points and to listen. And we also take audience questions, but we do not tolerate, anyone being disrespected. So we always say everyone's welcome. We welcome people of all perspectives to come and listen to the debate, so long as you are willing to be respectful and not, disrupt our ability to have a free exchange of ideas. So we have a great track record. We've not had any of our events shut down, I think mostly because they are debates. I think if we brought one single speaker with one perspective, we would face more challenges. But because we are willing to have a debate and host a debate and share both sides of an issue, we get an audience that's mixed always. And my hope is that by bringing people together in that way, they can continue the conversation and that we can begin to change the culture on college campuses to one where people are empowered to speak up and don't feel like they have to self-censor or be ashamed of their perspective, but where they can also listen and view people on the other side as people of good faith and sound mind and just improve our civil discourse in that way.
Here's some of the other upcoming debates that they're hosting. Arizona State University, should the U.S. federal government make reducing national debt a fiscal priority? That's a great one. You got another one. Any persons born in the U.S. to temporarily or illegal present parents, U.S. citizens by birthright under the 14th Amendment. Where's that one going to be?
That one's going to be at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville.
Great. And then another one at Colorado Mesa University. Should more federal agencies, such as the Bureau of Land Management, be relocated outside Washington, D.C.? These are fantastic discussions you're having on college campuses. And I think one of the things, especially for this audience, to understand is you are bringing a conservative perspective to a place that oftentimes doesn't have one.
That's right. And we had a debate earlier this spring. We started out the spring semester at Princeton University with a debate about the U.S.-Israel alliance. And that's one where, particularly on an Ivy League campus, just one short year ago, we were seeing these campuses be totally shut down. I mean, graduation ceremonies canceled. We had like a huge problem in this country on that issue in particular. So I got to say, I was biting my nails. I was a little nervous about that one, talking about Israel on a college campus, on an Ivy League campus. But that was overwhelmingly well received. We've had 25,000 plus views of that video online. All of our debate videos are posted online afterwards because we truly are just doing this, Jeff, because we believe people need to hear the debate. We want people to hear it if they can show up in person. Obviously, that's best. But if they want to go online to our YouTube channel, all of our previous debates are there. It's a great way to get informed. And, you know, he who knows only his side knows little of that. That's what I believe. I think you have to understand how people think and why they come to their conclusions, even if they're different from yours. And so that's one reason that I believe so strongly in this program.
That's why we love this show, too. And Bill's perspective and all of our listeners that engage, call in, and text is to have that debate. Doesn't happen too often out there. And I would encourage folks, this summer, go check out the Freedom Conference and Festival put on by Steamboat Institute. I don't know if CCU does the Western Conservative Summit anymore. Haven't heard any news about that. But if you want to gather with great like-minded conservatives and freedom-loving types of folks, go check out the Steamboat Institute's 19th Annual Freedom Conference and Festival. It's up in Beaver Creek. It's like the conservative alternative to the Aspen Institute. Those types of details are at steamboatinstitute.org as well. Hadley Heath Manning, Executive Vice President at the Steamboat Institute. Thanks for taking time to stop by and hang out with Jeff and Conservative Momma.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate it.
We'll continue this conversation about men and women's sports. Where should it go from here? Donald Trump signing executive orders, but that could always be overturned by the next administration. Do we need to codify it into law? And what is it going to take for the Democrats to abandon this idea that biological men, dudes, should be competing in women's sports? It's just crazy. We'll get to your phone calls and texts. You're listening to Jeff and Conservative Momma
here on Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking men and women's sports. There's going to be a debate tomorrow night at the University of Colorado that the Steamboat Institute is hosting on this. Now, I thought we settled this. And joining me live in studio is Conservative Momma. Bill will be back tomorrow. Bill was out late last night at a Papa Roach concert, of course.
Jamming.
Of course. That's exactly
Raging.
right. In the mosh pit.
Seriously.
So, Conservative Momma, you're a girl.
I am a girl.
I mean,
Yes.
you grew up doing
A woman.
sports. Do you have daughters?
I do. I
Yeah,
have
so-
two girls.
So you have girls
They
that
play volleyball.
compete in sports as well. Help me understand the disconnect that takes place in a progressive liberal woman's mind, particularly like the feminists, right? They came up arguing for Title IX, arguing
Right.
for their own place in sports.
Right.
And then they just hand it over to dudes.
Right.
Like, what?
That's why that there's an image of that fencer, like and she's kneeling down before this man who's identifying as a woman, and I go, what a picture that is right there of the woman bowing before the man. I was like, is this where the feminists wanted this story to end? Like, was this the goal? Like a total and complete submission to letting men completely run rampant on everything and not holding our own and saying no, putting a stake in the ground and say this is ours and we're not going to let you take it. And it's amazing to me that the feminists have just completely rolled over on this. Again, you come back to emotion with the leftists and how they feel. And they don't want people's feelings to be hurt. And so if you have this mentally ill person that believes that they're a woman, then they're a woman. And we don't want to hurt their feelings. And they don't care about the feelings of an actual woman, right? Like, it's okay. They don't care if I'm uncomfortable changing with a man in the locker room. They don't care about that, my feelings. It's the feelings of the man that identifies as a woman. And that's where I don't think I'll ever fully understand, like, why do my feelings not matter, but the mentally ill person's feelings do.
You're in a feminist world now colliding with transgenderism. They are going to make the woman subservient to the man.
Yes. I know. Like, it's the most bizarre situation. I don't get it. And and so I have to come back to its feelings, its emotion, and this is how we feel, and this is what we're gonna do. And also I really think it's important when you start to identify how there was such a push for pronouns over the last few years. Like they identify as this, so you have to call them this. So
it's rude not to.
It's rude not to. It's hurting their feelings again.
Yeah.
And so, but the goal, though, is if you can push someone to say something that's not, right, and you begin to say it over and over again, they believe that eventually, like, people will think it's true. That's why it's a trans woman, right? So if you say it over and over, like, I guarantee you, like she said tomorrow night, this guy is going to refer to these men as trans women, and repeatedly over and over. And it's like, no matter what, if you're a thinking individual that believes in science, you can say something over and over again, but that doesn't make it true. Like, it's still a male.
Now, the state of Colorado wants to put into law what's called a transgender Bill of Rights, that if you misgender somebody or dead name someone, if you're a business, you can be brought before the Colorado Civil Rights Commission. If you're a parent, you could lose the custody of your children. It's essentially a form of child abuse if you don't buy into transgenderism.
No, see, that's and that's a violation of our Constitution, correct? Because it's a violation of speech, and government can't police speech. They can't tell you what you can and cannot say. So, and then also, I think that your faith comes into play, right? My Christian faith. If I truly believe that the biblical word of God is true, and the Bible is true, and Scripture is true, then there's male and female, and we were formed in our mother's womb, and God knew us before He formed us.
Right.
And so I cannot speak something that's not. So then I think that I do think this will work its way up to the Supreme Court at some point, because then you're messing with people's faith.
But what do you think? What do you think parents are going to do? I mean, at this point, it's already existing law in Colorado, and if you take your child to a counselor and your child just goes, I don't know, I might be a boy, I might be a girl, I don't know, I'm wrestling with it, By law, that counselor has to go, here are the hormone treatments that you're going to begin. They literally have to counsel them to start to transition. They can't even explore. They can't even question. It's a one-way road. So parents that take their kids to counselors right now in the state, and my advice to them, don't take your kids to counselors if they're wrestling with this. But, I mean, you've seen some of these other stories of teachers that will groom the child to declare that they are homeless so that the student can go live with the teacher and begin that type of weird relationship. It happened in Columbine. It's happened now in Durango. It's happened now twice in the state of Colorado. I mean, and now you have this transgender law that's going to basically say you're abusing your child if you don't buy into the transgender ideology. So what do you think a Christian mom should do in this state?
Well, I wouldn't be taking my kids anywhere around a leftist at all, or going to counselors for that matter. It's amazing to me that they want to remove the parent's right to parent, right? So then it's basically the government is now parenting and raising your child. So, and this is it goes so against like how, because Jared Polis, I know that I don't think his end goal is to just end up governor. I think he's going to try to run for president in 2028. And so if I was a Republican down at the Capitol right now, I would be pushing every single message on Jared. Like, if this is Jared's legislature, this is Jared trying to police speech. He's trying to, and so he's not a live and let live kind of guy. And that's the image he wants to portray is, hey, I'm just you do you, I'll do me. But at the end of the day, this guy is actually telling you what you can and cannot say. It's the opposite of live and let live. And so if I was down there, it would be Jared Polis's legislature. This is all Jared. This is what he's doing. He wants to police your speech. I mean, he'd be hitting every news outlet you can, blanket social media. Just go after the guy, because they have to feel the heat big. And so I think that could begin to move some things, hopefully.
We're talking with Conservative Momma. She's filling in for Bill Thorpe. Bill will be back tomorrow. By the way, follow Conservative Momma on Instagram and Facebook. She's at Con Mama on X. Big following, hundreds of thousands, as she likes to make fun of the craziness of the left. We'll continue. You're listening to Jeff and Conservative Momma
on Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy's out today hanging out with Papa Roach last night in the mosh pit, recovering this morning. He'll be back. Don't worry. Tomorrow, he'll be right back. But joining me live in studio, Conservative Momma. She's on X at Con Mama. She's on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook is Conservative Momma. Huge followings there. She likes to make fun of the progressives and kind of acts like a progressive woman. And it's hilarious. It makes for a lot of views and a lot of shares.
It's fun.
Adam, we got a question from a caller. What was the question?
Yeah, we had a caller who couldn't stay on because he had to go into work, but he was talking about all these laws for letting women participate in men's sports, and he was asking, where do these laws come from? Like, who creates the laws? Where's the genesis of them? Do you have any info on that?
I do, because I ran lobbying teams down at the Colorado State Capitol, and I can tell you the most progressive laws, whether it's abortion or transgenderism, all come from the same place. And that is the Public Policy Department of the ACLU. So they actually write the bills. I remember one time I was talking to a Republican lawmaker, Hugh McKean. God rest his soul. He was the House Minority Leader. Great guy. But I remember I was talking to Hugh. I was like, man, it doesn't seem like the lawmakers even know what's in these bills. Like they didn't even sit down to actually type them, or their staff type them. It seems like somebody handed it to them. Is that the case? And he's like, Jeff, it's exactly the case. And in fact, when I need to negotiate amendments, I don't call the Democrats. I call the ACLU.
Wow. To
negotiate the amendments. So major donors out of New York, San Francisco, Chicago, who fund, and at a certain point, probably some NGOs getting government funding, are paying lobbyists, lawyers, to write these bills that drive a radically progressive agenda, and they were literally handed to a Democrat. The Democrat, because of where they're going to get their campaign contribution
That's where
from.
their money comes, right? You want to stay in office? You work on this thing right here. Pass this baby.
That's exactly how it works.
Yep.
Here it is. Go get it done. They're essentially bag boys and girls. They're delivery
it's so
boys.
dirty when you think about it.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's gross.
Yeah, I mean, that's why if you sit in these committee hearings and try to testify against it, and you feel like you're talking to a blank wall.
Yeah, they're not even listening.
They're not right.
No.
And it's not because they don't care in the sense of, well, I've already kind of made up my mind. It's because you're not their boss. Their
They're
boss
owned. Which is really
the
sad.
ACLU.
It's really sad what's happened to our all of it. I think it's all the way from school board all the way up through, Congress. They're owned, and there's no adherence to the constituents anymore. It's just, hey, this is where my money's coming from. This is what's going to keep me in power and keep me in office, and this is what I'm going to do.
Because when it's time to get elected again, guess who writes the big checks? Not the little ones, the big ones. It comes from the ACLU and those special interest groups. So great question. I appreciate you calling in to give us that. All right, coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, Roger Hamilton with the Eagle Lake Camps is going to join us talking about some great Christian camping opportunities for your kids and grandkids this summer. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. You're listening to Jeff and Conservative Momma
on 710 KNUS.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Conservative Momma. What? Yes, Bill Thorpe is out just for today. He was hanging out with Papa Roach. It was a late night. He was in the mosh pit having fun, probably went to the after party. He's recovering today, but tomorrow Billy will be back. So for those of you on the text messages that appreciate Billy's perspective, you got to call in and defend that side of the argument. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, we talk with Roger Hamilton. He's with Eagle Lake Camps and Mile High Day Camps, providing some great Christian camping opportunities for your kids and grandkids. So if you're looking for something to do this summer, don't miss this conversation. It's going to be a great one. Christian camping saved and changed my life. Went to a Young Life camp when I was 16 years old. Had a conversion there. This was at Castaway up in Minnesota, which is a great camp up there. And I lost my best friend a few years later to a drug overdose. I've probably been right there with him utilizing drugs. So Christian camping saved my life. It's a great opportunity. Now, Conservative Momma, my parents gave me, I was such a wild guy and threw big parties.
Okay.
And my parents gave me one of two options, a Christian camp or military school. I think I chose the right way.
Yeah,
right?
you did choose
right?
the right
Christian
way.
camp.
Which is awesome because I think my relationship with the Lord definitely deepened when I think you can get away, right? When you get away from all the distractions, and you can just really focus on your walk and what all of this is, right? And especially when you're a teen, like just looking for direction and finding identity. Obviously, a lot of the youth right now is trying to find identity and who they are, and I think that definitely deepened my walk as well.
Right. Get away from the friend groups for a bit. Get the phone off. Go spend some one-on-one time learning about the Lord. It'll absolutely change folks' lives. Did for mine, did for Conservative Momma as well. So you're not going to want to miss this conversation with Roger Hamilton, Eagle Lake Camps coming up. But now it's time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning, 52 and a little cloudy out there in Denver. Expecting a high of 71 today. 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, DOJ revealed that Trump assassin Ryan Ralph, whatever his name is, tried to buy military weapons from Ukraine to kill Trump. What? Including a rocket launcher. Ralph asked the Ukrainian military for a Stinger or RPG to take out Trump because Trump would be bad for Ukraine. Ralph goes on to say the weapons of war that are paid for and supplied by the U.S. military get lost all the time on the battlefield, and no one would miss them. Has Ukraine done this before? Their government knew about this Trump assassination attempt in advance? We'll see. Where were the warnings? A lot of questions here. DJT's special envoy to the Middle East is set to lead nuclear talks with Iran on Saturday. That's according to multiple reports. 47 said the U.S. should be and would be speaking with Iranian officials Monday. Iran's foreign minister said the talks will be indirect in Oman, although the U.S. has insisted the discussions will be direct. Trump's trade talk official is on Capitol Hill to face questioning from senators. This ought to be fun. The Senate Finance Committee is pressing U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer over the president's reciprocal tariffs. Oh, my goodness. They are horrible. In his opening statement, Greer said this adjustment may be challenging at times. He added, It is a moment of drastic, overdue change, but I'm confident the American people will rise to the occasion as they have done before. I agree. 47 says he's had a really good meeting with South Korea, and also DJT threatening to up tariffs on China by another 50% if they don't get rid of retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods.
With China, as you know, against my statement, they put a 34% tariff on above what their ridiculous tariffs were already. And I said, if that tariff isn't removed by tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're putting a 50% tariff on above the tariffs that we put on. So they've gone for years. They've become a rich country because of people, again, that were in the White House that allowed this to happen.
Hey, the Supreme Court sides with DJT on the Alien Enemies Act. AG Pam Bondi said it was a landmark victory for the rule of law. An activist judge in D.C. does not have the jurisdiction to seize control of President Trump's authority to conduct foreign policy and keep the American people safe. Chris Murray, First and 14th Law, was on the show this morning.
It means that Donald Trump can deport for the time being. Okay, it means that Donald Trump's proclamation that the Alien Enemies Act is in force is usable. He has to allow, this is a lot of conservatives who are celebrating this, right, need to note one part about the majority opinion here. It said, going forward, you will provide enough notice to these people who are subject to a deportation order, right, under the Alien and Enemies Act, that they have time to go and seek a petition or file a petition for writ of habeas corpus.
Good point. Secretary of State Jenna Griswold says that she is planning to run for Attorney General next year. Oh, that's awesome. Another lefty in power in Colorado. That'll help our state. She tried to keep DJT off the ballot. Remember that? Well, let's just keep DJT off the ballot. No Trump. No Trump, because he's a criminal and he's evil. And now Grizzy wants to be AG.
At this moment in time, we really need a strong, proven leader as Attorney General. We are seeing our rights and freedoms being attacked by the Trump administration. And I have the experience standing up to Trump and MAGA extremists.
Get that big stuff out of here! And yeah, we know how much experience you have. The great DA himself, George Brauchler, on the show this morning, chimes in on Griswold.
No, I don't think she's qualified in any way. And I guess for those people that are out there wondering, well, I don't know. I think if you look at what she's been able to do with the limited authority of the Secretary of State, and now add to that the ability to have access to the statewide grand jury, I mean, it makes you shudder to think about that. So, no, I don't think she's ever demonstrated a mastery of any area of the law. I don't know that she's ever practiced law. Jeff, I mean, I think she has graduated law school, got involved in politics. I don't know if she's ever had a single client as an attorney.
Wow. The problem is, as George points out, she knows how to raise money and voters don't care about qualifications. She will be a challenge to defeat. Let's try to defeat her, though, okay? Let's go. Let's start today. Hadley, Heath Manning, Executive VP of the Steamboat Institute. They're having a debate tomorrow night on the campus of CU Boulder. It's free. It's at the Touchdown Club. They're debating men and women's sports. No, the issue is not over. Unfortunately, we'll have to fight this thing probably every 2 and 4 years at the election booth. Another reason to be a conservative, but should be a great debate and event tomorrow.
The debate is ongoing, and we've seen even in the last week, Jeff, an incident at Ithaca College where a rower who, was born male, is a man, was on the women's rowing team at a Division III rowing competition. And then we also saw USA Fencing had a regional tournament at University of Maryland. And it's very, the imagery is now very famous of a young women fencer named Turner. She took a knee rather than face an opponent who is male in the women's fencing division. So we still see incidences of this. And I'm interested in, of course, having this debate.
Ball is tipped, and there you are.
One shining moment last night, the national championship game between Florida and Houston.
Cryer, 6 seconds, 5 seconds, short. He walked, he can't touch it. He can't. 1 second, and it's over. Florida is back on top of the college basketball world.
Florida comes back. They were down 12, and they come back to beat Houston last night, 65-63 in the national championship game. Rockies back at it tonight at Coors, 6:40 first pitch against Milwaukee. And the Golden Knights at the Avalanche this evening in lower downtown Denver. 40 in Lone Tree and 49 in Englewood, 52 in Denver. Jeff and the Conservative Momma, who's in for Billy, who I can't wait to find out about his concert last night. They continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Springtime in the Rockies. Beautiful weather over the next 3 days, maybe the next 4 level clouds, and it might get a little bit breezy. We'll be low 70s today, near 70 tomorrow, deep into the 70s as we get into late Thursday and especially by Friday and Saturday. Breezy periods, likely dry until maybe a chance Sunday and Monday for showers. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. West Weather Center.
We're going to talk with Roger Hamilton with Eagle Lake Camps here in just a second. Guys, I want to tell you about advanced hair restoration. If you're losing your hair and desire to have it back, Advanced Hair Restoration has the easiest guaranteed solution. Their simple one-day treatment offers life-changing results. I've seen it with my own eyes. Guys, it's not magic, but close to it. They put hair where you need it most, and bam, it grows. It's actually science. Advanced Hair has it all. Top-rated Dr. Tanya Paul's modern technology, and best of all, you get your very own natural hair that begins regrowing the very next day. Advanced Hair even guarantees it will grow for life. So schedule your free consultation now, 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver, now multiple years in a row, and has changed the lives of tens of thousands of people. So don't wait. Check out their before and afters online for yourself at 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. All right, so many of us went to Christian summer camps. Had a great experience, life-changing for me. I had a conversion there to following Jesus Christ while I was at a Young Life camp. My parents didn't know what to do with me. There was a last resort. Go to a Christian camp, Jeff, or go to military school. And the girls at the Christian camps were a lot cuter. So that's why I ultimately chose that. But while I was there, got a chance to really hear the gospel of Jesus Christ, and it changed my life as I decided that Jesus Christ was going to be my Lord and Savior. And to give us some insight and some great camping opportunities for kids is Roger Hamilton with Eagle Lake Camps. Roger, thanks for taking time to join the Jeff and Conservative Momma show today.
Good morning. Glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
Roger, let's talk about some of the camping opportunities you guys offer.
Yeah, so Eagle Lake Camp has been around since 1957. We're a ministry of the Navigators. We have an overnight property up in the mountains, but then we do day camps around the area. Last summer, we were in 4 states. We had over 6,000 kids come to one of our programs. And you mentioned a conversion experience. 344 kids indicated that they prayed to receive Christ at one of our programs last year. So we feel like it's a great opportunity to minister to kids. My kids, 3 out of our 4 kids have been to Eagle Lake, loved it, changed their lives.
Well, let's talk about what they do at Eagle Lake. What kind of activities? What's the experience like for the kids?
Yeah, at overnight we have a lake and 300 acres. So the overnight camp for older kids who want an overnight experience. We got a zip line. We got a blob. They can play on the lake. They get Bible study every day. They get one-on-one mentoring from our staff. And then we've moved that into our day camp opportunity. And we have that several locations in the Springs, and we're really excited about our connection with Mile High Academy up in Highlands Ranch.
Mile High Academy in Highlands Ranch, that's going to open up some opportunities for kids here that are nearby. So what's a day camp like? Maybe do you drop the kids off in the morning, pick them up in the afternoon? Give us a sense of what a day camp would be like for a kid.
Absolutely. It's just like you say, drop off in the morning, pick them up in the afternoon. It's similar to a VBS kind of schedule, but we try to bring the fun of our camp adventure. So there's inflatable water slides, and we do a lot of fun activities. We do Bible study every day, and it's a great opportunity for kids that may not have an opportunity to go to an overnight camp, or it just works with the parent's schedule to drop them off and let them experience a Christian camp community right in their area.
And these are 1 week sessions?
Yeah, so all through June and July, there are 1 week sessions and $400 a week. And so you could sign up at eaglelakecamps.com and you can get more information there. But we run individual weeks all through June and July, so parents can sign their kids up for multiple weeks. There are multiple week discounts available, and that information is on our website. But it's a great opportunity to experience camp without going away for an overnight experience.
And in fact, RockyMountainBargains.com is a special deal right now, as Roger was talking about. That's $400 typically to go to these camps for $200, half off. If you go to RockyMountainBargains.com, RockyMountainBargains.com, right there you can click on it and get a half off deal. That's incredible, Roger. Now, Roger, I want to talk about what the kid experiences biblically. What do they learn about? Tell about some of the topics you guys discuss regarding Bible study.
Yeah, we value, as a ministry of the Navigators, we value depth in the Bible and getting into the scriptures every day. So we have the kids do a Bible study that's age appropriate. There's an opportunity by the end of the week to have a very clear gospel presentation. We encourage the kids to memorize scripture, and we try to make it fun.
That is important. I remember there's a great saying from another ministry that it's a sin to bore a kid with the gospel of Jesus Christ. This is life-saving, the bread of life, as Christ would say, for folks. It should be exciting. It should be fun. It sounds like the kids have a lot of fun at these camps.
Yeah, they absolutely do. We want kids to run and play in a safe environment. We want them to interact with college students who are serious about their faith, that care about getting the gospel to kids. And so, yeah, it should be fun to be in the Bible. It should be fun to be around other kids.
We're talking with Roger Hamilton with Eagle Lake Camps. Great opportunity for summer Christian camping this summer. They even have it up here in Denver at Mile High Academy. All of this available at RockyMountainBargains.com for half off, which is just amazing. Incredible deal. Now, Roger, I imagine you get a lot of questions about safety. I'm a parent of kids. How do we guarantee that our kids are going to be safe at these camps? And what does your ministry do to make sure that the leaders are screened properly and that kids' safety is protected here?
That's a great question. I'm also a parent. I want my kid to be in a great, safe environment. So we take all of our staff through Ministry Safe and screen them. We work closely with our Navigator legal
Roger will be back here in just a second. He dropped off there. While Roger's coming back, let me tell you about Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I adore Dan. I've known Dan for well over a decade. Pro-life, pro-family, pro-faith, pro America. That matters because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everybody involved in the case. Dan Caplis, the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But more than just being a great guy, Dan's a real winner. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law, the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. All right, I want to continue my conversation with Roger Hamilton. Roger, I apologize. I think that was on our end here. Roger, let's talk again. Safety. You were mentioning what Navigators does to make sure that the camp counselors are some of the highest qualified and highest screened counselors out there. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So we have pretty rigorous licensing and safety inspections of our equipment. And, you know, our camp verse is Luke 2:52, where it talks about Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and favor with God and man. And that's how we want our kids to grow in those 4 areas. So we want them to grow spiritually, grow socially and emotionally, but also to step out of their comfort zone and try some things. So if, you know, getting on a climbing wall with safety harnesses, of course, but overcoming maybe a fear of heights or something they've never done before, we want a kid to have the total experience of growing in all those ways, just like Jesus did.
We're talking with Roger Hamilton. He's with Eagle Lake Camps. Go to eaglelakecamps.com. You can see their offerings there, overnight camps as well as day camps. Now, Roger, I imagine you've spent some years being a leader with this organization. Can you tell me some stories, some times that you will always remember? Because I was a river guide with a great company called Noah's Ark for years, and I loved going down the river with folks and talking about the Lord and all these great experiences and adventure. And when you bring it all together, you really hit the heart of a kid, especially at that age, and get to impact them. So in your years of ministry, tell me some stories, some moments you remember that really impacted you.
Well, that's a great question. My wife and I have ministered with the Navigators for 36 years. We come out of our collegiate work at Wisconsin. So one of the things we've loved to do is share the gospel on a college campus with just about anybody from every different walk of life and background. And so it's fun to share the gospel and engage people with the claims of Christ in a kind of a challenging environment of a secular college campus. But then we love to see our kids go to a Christian camp where it's a safe environment, where they can ask questions, they can get in the Bible and learn to love Jesus among their peers.
And I've seen study after study of the fact that if the kid is not introduced to the gospel of Jesus Christ early on in their lives, it's much more difficult later in life for them to have that conversion, to be a regular church attender. Why is it so important for young minds and young hearts to be introduced to the good news of Jesus Christ?
Yeah, we've heard all those studies as well, and that's why my wife and I have committed our career to sharing the gospel with kids and with college students. It's life-changing. Before a lot of our convictions, good or bad, get baked in. So we feel like there's a great impressionable window in a good way where there's a lot of stuff coming at our kids, a lot of stuff coming at college students, and for them in the midst of perhaps loneliness, isolation, disillusionment, to know that God loves them, to know that they're fearfully and wonderfully made. One of our Bible study for our older campers this summer, we're talking from Ephesians about identity in Christ, how we're God's workmanship, his masterpiece, and kids matter to God.
And you know that we've all seen the example of an airplane that just gets that angle wrong when it's navigating. And yeah, initially that difference isn't big, but you expand that out over a long period of time, you're going to be in a totally different city if the airplane doesn't get its heading right. Same thing I've noticed. You know, I'm Roger in my 40s now, and the kids in high school that I was with that got it about Jesus Christ, made Christ their Lord and Savior, started attending church regularly. Okay, we're now in our 40s. Their lives look dramatically different than my peers that chose not to, and now have struggled with other things, drug addiction, family breakup, you know, all the problems that come with living a life outside of Christ. And that little choice, that one choice that was made when they were young to follow Christ has drastic impacts on the rest of their life. And I imagine as somebody who's done years and years of ministry, you've seen that firsthand.
Absolutely. You know, the Navigators is a ministry that's committed to discipleship and disciple making. One of the things we try to incorporate in our camp programs, I mentioned over 6,000 kids coming to a camp program, 344 making a first-time commitment to Christ. But then we encourage every camper to pray about and commit to sharing the gospel with a friend. So we had 989 kids who made a commitment to say, I want to go back home and I want to share the gospel with a friend.
We're talking with Roger Hamilton. Roger's with Eagle Lake Camps. This is a ministry of Navigators. Now, Eagle Lake Camps runs all June and July for ages 6 through 12. They have a day camp. This day camp is going to be held here in Denver at Mile High Academy in Highlands Ranch. All right, listen to this. The traditional cost, $400 for your kid to go through a week's worth of camp. That in itself is a good deal. But then, because of Rocky Mountain Bargains, if you go to RockyMountainBargains.com, RockyMountainBargains.com, you can get that entire week for just $200. Now, I want to take a moment to just send a message to grandparents out there, okay? I was saved. I fully believe this. I was saved because of the prayers of my grandmother on both sides of my family. Very, very faithful women who love the Lord. And look, your grandparents, the kids are going 100 miles an hour, and sometimes you don't feel like you can necessarily take the time to share Jesus with them, and there can be the generational hurdle. Okay, I get it. But I was saved because of the prayers of my grandmothers. I fully believe that, and this is something you can just encourage. Encourage the grandkids. Hey, there's this great camp. I'll even help pay for it. It's only $200. You could be saving the life. Think about all the drugs, all of the distractions, all the things that Satan wants to do to pull your grandchild away from a life of dedication to Jesus. 1 week at a camp can absolutely change their lives. Only $200 because of RockyMountainBargains.com. Go there, and this could be life-changing. And I've got a few other questions here. Conservative Momma was live in studio with me. She just wanted to confirm because it was kind of breaking up. With regards to safety of the camp counselors, you guys go through a rigorous screening process and background check. Is that right, Roger?
Absolutely, we do. Yeah. Well, so we screen our staff, we train them, and we have multiple inspections from various agencies about safety and our equipment.
All that a mom would love to hear right there. Well, Roger Hamilton, sure appreciate your time. It sounds like this is going to be a great week. or a great month for great few months for the kids here in Colorado, and we all know how important it is for them to get introduced to Jesus at such a young age. You guys are doing great work. Eagle Lake Camps, only $200 for an entire week. Go to RockyMountainBargains.com. Roger, thanks for taking time to join us this morning.
You're welcome. Hey, and if you have older kids, junior high and high school, check out our overnight opportunities at EagleLakeCamps.com.
So much fun for these kids, and life's going to get them later, so carve out some time for them to go have some fun at these great camps. Roger, thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
We'll continue. Bill's out. Conservative Mama's here. Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to Jeff and Conservative Mama. Hey, speaking of hay, things are looking great on the stock market right now. We're up almost 900 points, 2.3%. Now, joining me live in studio is Conservative Momma. Bill's out today. Conservative Momma hanging out. She's got a huge following on X, on Instagram, YouTube, where she kind of lampoons the left, and she does a great job with these satires. Now, you and I were talking tariffs.
Yeah.
And
let's talk tariffs.
This is the debate I think that's happening right now. You do have some old school kind of free trade folks that are going, no, we love the way things are. They always got to stay this way. And we got real challenges right now.
Right.
You got low economic mobility. People can't change in between classes like they used to. Manufacturing's gone from this country.
It's gone.
Really, the only job options you have are to drive for Uber or Amazon because we're so consumer-based. There's no real manufacturing options out there. And when I raised the question, okay, so, well, what do you do with China? China's manipulating their currency. They're subsidizing their steel, so they're flooding the market with cheap steel. What do you do?
Right.
And
we should just keep doing the same thing.
That's the answer.
I mean,
right?
that's their answer. Right. Like, is that what they want? We're $36 trillion in debt. Products being made overseas. Americans are dying from fentanyl. Other countries are placing tariffs on us. Why can't we reciprocate? We've got a shrinking middle class. People can't buy homes. What?
Boom. So then my question is, how far do you want Trump to push this? Okay? Because Trump could back off, and there's some signals he's willing to negotiate with these countries.
Right, but my concern is, okay, I don't want him to back off. And I know that's even more risky because people are like, no, my 401k. But in order to actually really see change, you have to stay true to the tariffs and then long enough to get companies that are overseas to say, okay, we're coming back. We're going to come back and we're going to build and create in America and create American jobs.
All right, I'm going to take the role of Bill Thorpe here because I can channel Bill. I often joke I'm in two marriages. I'm in a marriage with my lovely wife and then Bill Thorpe. So Bill would go, one, you can't assume they're ever going to come back because they'll find other opportunities. They'll go manufacture in other countries and they'll just sell to other countries. So they may not come back. And then two, didn't you vote for lower prices?
We did vote for lower prices, but the thing is, some of them won't come back. Like, I don't think you're going to get Nike to come and like make shoes in America. You're just not going to do that. But it's a multiple prong approach that Trump is going after. So he's going to do tariffs, then he's going to do tax cuts, then he's going to cut regulation, and then that cuts the interest rates. So it's a multiple steps that have to take place here. It's not just one big thing, tariffs. But in order to negotiate with tariffs, right, that's the goal, is to get tax cuts then to come into play. And then you have incentives for corporations. They're like, all right, well, there's these huge tax breaks. Why wouldn't I come back here and do my business here? And then then you cut regulation like we saw already with the fires in Los Angeles, right? They're already removing red tape so these people can build their homes again. When in reality, it would take years and years, especially in California. I lived out there. I mean, the government's in every single aspect of your life. You can't even breathe without some kind of, how much can you breathe today? So the fact that they're moving regulation there, we could do that nationally, right? And so that is another incentive for companies. And then you start to see the interest rates drop. Already the Fed had a meeting yesterday, private door meeting. I have no idea what it's about, but that's what we need to see. And if then all of this happens, then you start to see wage increases, because that's where the middle class is being hurt right now. I think we're not seeing it. My husband and I are not seeing. There's no wage increases. So you see this inflation, people getting hit with higher costs, but they're not getting a pay bump. So it's just like you're just getting by.
It's getting harder and harder.
It's getting harder and harder. So we need to see wages increase as well.
I saw we went and picked up some pizza at a local pizza chain restaurant the other day. It was Friday night. We're kind of busy. It was the bad weather, all that stuff. So I'm like, I'll just pick up some pizza, right? We'll come home. The place was full.
Wow.
Full with Uber Eats drivers.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I feel like that's what people are growing up to do.
Yeah.
In this economy.
That or a YouTuber. I mean, those are the things that you talk to people.
Right. You talk to any kid
what do you
that you want to be a
when you grow
YouTuber.
up? Yeah.
But doesn't it feel like our economy right now isn't anywhere close to what it was when I was growing up, with the opportunities, manufacturing, trade, skills, all that. I feel like you have two options in life. You become a doctor or a lawyer, or you drive for Amazon.
Right. No.
And I think it's because some have argued that free trade almost worked too well. Like we can get avocados really cheap.
Yeah.
You can get TVs really cheap.
Right.
But we're so consumer-based that really you're just either fulfilling that side of the economy of delivering stuff for people now.
Right.
Or you're a specialist like a doctor or lawyer. But the whole Midwest, the manufacturing, all those opportunities are gone.
Right. And the ability to dream big, right? I mean, I was raised like anything's possible. You can do anything, be anything, do anything, just shoot for the moon, man. And I feel like that's just gone. It's not
Do you
happening.
think that was helpful, though? I wonder, because you and I were talking, we're the same age. We both graduated from high school. I often wonder if that pursue your dream mentality really screwed over millennials.
I think, well...
Like, right? Like, because we all hit 40 and it's like, oh, well, no, I'm not. And I love this job, but the idea that, that this was, that I really, really achieved all those little dreams I had when I was a kid. But when really, in reality, what you should have been trained to do, I feel passionate about this, is bring home a good paycheck for your kids.
Yes. And then dream on the side. I think I agree with that. I think that, and because I grew up with, theater background, acting.
Moved to Hollywood.
Oh my gosh, yes, I wanted to perform. That was my dream. I don't regret those years that in Los Angeles, because I really do feel like I grew in my faith. I grew in the ability to use talent, but at the same time, it's like, man, if it would have been like, yes, pursue acting and all of that, but also, get your nursing degree.
But do you think our grandparents heard in high school, go pursue your dreams?
No, never. No, not at all.
The whole world's open. Pursue your dreams.
Right.
They went and killed Nazis.
Right.
And they did what was necessary to care for their families. And I think they actually ended up providing a lot better lives.
And I think the question should be like, and this is what I'm asking my kids now is, hey, where do you want to be when you're 30? Like, what do you see it? And like, you talk to, I want to have a home. Well, do you know what it takes to get a home? Right. Like, do you understand what has to happen in order for you to own a home? I want to have a car. I want to do this. I want to do that. Well, there's a lot of things you got to get done in your 20s in order to get there in your 30s. And I think like the chase your dream kind of side of stuff, the reality of it, you have to be like, okay, in order to get to what you really want, you have to like grind and you have to get some stuff done that you don't really want to do.
Why not make the dream like caring for a family?
Yes.
Like
being a mom, right? Yeah, I know.
And make that like something that should be lauded, whether you're a mom staying at home to care for the kids or just going to do a 9 to 5.
Right.
And bringing home a steady paycheck for your kids.
Right.
Like, that's a great thing to do.
And I think so. I've had this whole moment, like, with my own life and walk. And, okay, it didn't, like, the whole, the acting side of it. And I could tell you stories and stories of Hollywood and what I was asked to do and where I would not compromise my values and why I was like, this is not for me. But then at the same time, I feel like, I think that people need to ask themselves, with well, not everyone, but I mean, for me in my own walk with God, it's you can kind of have any kind of job, right? It's just doing it and using it as a ministry. And so what I'm doing now is like, okay, how can I influence people and bring them closer to Christ? How can I share the gospel with the talents that I've been given, and at the same time, just live life, right, and glorify God in anything you do. And I think sometimes like you think that there has to be some huge moment, and it's really just the day-to-day, right?
Yes.
It's the day-to-day and walking out the day-to-day and living for God.
Conservative Mama hanging out in place of Bill Thorpe as he's recovering from spending a late night with Papa Roach and going to mosh pits and probably an after party. We'll get all that and more. You're listening to the Jeff and Conservative Mama Show
on Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Getting text messages in. They loved having Conservative Mama on their show today. Well done.
Thank you.
Can you believe you're at the end of the show?
No, it actually goes by really fast. That 4 hours.
Yeah?
And it didn't seem like 4 hours.
I'm glad.
Maybe
at least it didn't feel like 8.
No.
Conservative Mama filling in for Bill Thorpe. Go follow her on X, Instagram, Facebook's very popular, doing really funny work. She's a great comedian. Conservative Mama, thanks so much. Bill will be back tomorrow. You've been listening to Jeff and Conservative Mama
on Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.